Yeah.
Hey there. What's going on?
Not much. What's going on?
I don't know if
So we're
you're
good.
guilty of something.
I do.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Nantucket Historic District Commission. It is Tuesday, August 1st at 4:02. And all of our members are in attendance tonight. Joe Paul, Diane Coombs, Abby Camp, myself, Ray Pohl, Stephen Welch, Carrie Thornwell, and Connie Patton. For those few of you in the audience, just a couple of requests that we make before we start. One is if you can mute your phones, and two is if you plan on recording any portion of the meeting with your own device, let us know in advance of that. Thank you.
Do it in Dolby sound.
Yeah, it has to be done in Dolby. That's right. We don't noise reduction, the famous. Okay, so those are all the things I have to say. Can I have a motion? Yes, that motion, for those of you unfamiliar with this process, that motion was to approve tonight's agenda. And because we are all physically present, this is going to be by voice vote. And it will be, well, we're going to do a rotation because Val is a regular member. So we'll just start with Joe on the, okay, on the vote for the agenda, approving the agenda. All those in favor, including Joe Paul, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There we go. Everybody's in. All right. We got a couple of signs. First thing.
Mr.
Oh,
Chairman,
where's our sign meister? Are you the, okay. Yes.
the signed council met this morning and both applications for the town of Nantucket were held for representation.
Held for rep. Okay, very good. This one is going to go to Carrie Thornwell. How about I have a motion to, yeah, yes, exactly. Correct. That's right. Okay, all those in favor of Diane's motion to hold as per sign committee's recommendation, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, now we're on to consents. Let's see who needs to recuse from this, and it looks like nobody. Okay, great. Connie, if you can sit on consents, that would be great. Regular board plus Connie. Can I have a motion on that? All right, Diane has made a motion to approve the 12 consent items on this agenda. All those in favor, including Connie, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, now we get to the heart of the matter. We're at new business. First item of which is at 74 Arkansas as-built fence. Do we have someone to rep? Okay, come on down. Now what you want to do is, let's check and see if that mic is on. Just say test 1, 2.
Test 1, 2.
There you go. It's on. Okay. So just give your name for the record.
I'm Nicholas Torino of 74 Arkansas Ave.
Very good. Thank you.
Welcome to the HTC.
Yes, welcome
Thank
to
you,
the
sir.
HCC. All right. So you want to tell us a little bit about your fence?
Yeah, so when we first bought our house back in 2019, we had a fence that was already erected in its position. It had been neglected for quite some time. With our side owner, she made comments about us fixing the fence, not thinking, and I apologize to you guys in advance. I didn't know that the HDC required a permit to put the fence up. With our dog that we have, it is a high energy breed. Our neighbors had some concerns with him getting out of the yard. So we decided to put a fence up. There was originally 3 sections of about 6 foot tall wooden fence. And then to finish it off was split rail fence with green fencing up on it. The fence at the time was not satisfactory. Our dog would hop over the fence, get into the neighbors' yards, and it became an issue. So in doing so, we put a fence up again, not knowing that I needed a permit to do so, just to keep the dog contained to the yard. Our property line wasn't really going off of what the GIS map shows. Everybody in the complex kind of went directly backwards. So in doing so, we had the property surveyed. We wanted to make sure everything was kosher when we put the fence up. So we put a fence up along the yard. At the time, as you can see, if we're all looking at the map, the far right property, 78 Arkansas Ave, kind of goes along Arkansas Ave, was flush with vegetation. There was trees, there was brush, there was everything preventing our fence from being exposed to the road. Last year, the property owner of 78 had some brush cut back, which exposed a section of the fence that was already in place. In this photo here, you can see it was done in the last week and a half. He clear cut the whole roadside edge, and now our fence is obviously very visible from the roadside.
Is that your fence?
That wooden, about 6 foot tall fence, yes. There's one section left that needs to be filled in on the left side. We got the notice saying we couldn't have our fence up, so we have yet to put the final fencing post in. That's just,
The final fencing post, meaning this section here that's lower?
yes, sir. That's just
Okay.
green deer fence right now.
Gotcha.
And it just keeps getting knocked over by the deer hopping over. We put a garden in on the left side. So inevitably our dog can hop that fence. We're just, it's come down to more so an issue with our right side neighbor. We're trying to do what's right to keep our dog contained to the yard, so I don't have to, run into nuisance dog violations, or that's pretty much what it comes down to. I've spoken with the tenant that lives in that residence. She's fine with the fence up. She actually appreciates the fence being up to prevent our dogs from interacting with each other. Our left side neighbor is kind of more so timid with dogs, so he was all for the fence being put up. I spoke to the tenant that's in 78 right today, actually, just to kind of before coming into this meeting to say, are you all right with the fence? Because if there's anybody that's in our housing development having an issue with the fence, we'd be more than willing to address it. And everybody that's in our housing complex right there is all for the fence being up and keeping our dog contained to the yard.
Okay, great. A lot of the submission was vague to me, certainly, and I think maybe to some other people. I should announce the board, by the way, because we're missing a regular member, so we're back in rotation to Joe. Joe is going to be sitting on that, on your application, and the rest of the regular board, okay? So, but by the way, one of those photographs showed your picket fence. And then behind, it looks like a 5-in-1. That's on your neighbor's property, right? We're looking
Correct. So
through-
that fence was erected before we had even moved in. There was 3 sections that matched that whether it was the previous homeowner or the owner that I believe has made this report, had put up. And like I said, the fence was neglected over one of the windstorms during a winter, I think a year ago. It had completely blown the fence over, which basically allowed the dogs into our neighbor's yard. So we put this up trying to prevent any further issues with nuisance dogs or anything. And again, at the time, the fence at that point wasn't even visible. It wasn't until a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, that the property owner that abuts the road came in and clear cut all.
Now, when you say abuts the road, do you mean Arkansas Avenue Road?
Yes, sir. Right where those 2 tree stumps are in the nearest of the
I see
photo.
that. Yeah,
That
so
was-
this view is taken from Arkansas.
The what?
That photograph is taken from Arkansas
sir.
Avenue.
Yes.
Okay, got it. And so according to this plan, I'm sorry, I'm just gathering a few
No worries.
informational type things to make sure that everybody is aware of like what exactly you're asking for. The plan that you submitted shows one length of fence that
Correct.
goes from the condo building to Oakland Avenue. Is
Cor-
that, you're
That's
saying almost all of that is already constructed?
That's already constructed. We stopped just short of Oakland Avenue, so there's no issue should the road be developed in the future. We actually,
Oakland is currently a paper road, is that right?
yes, sir. It's all trees and
Okay.
vines and
Got it. All right, do any of the board members have any questions, like informational type questions before we get to deliberation? Go ahead.
So I just wanted to know, is this the only fencing that's on these?
Are you on, by the way?
Sorry.
That's all right.
There we go.
Is this the only fence that's in this development? If-
Yes, ma'am. We have some neighbors' dogs that roam around the yard. I'm not making stink about that. My dog is a hunting dog. He chases birds. So for him to get out into the open field or into the woods, he's gone.
Well,
miles
my
of-
concern is about sort of the streetscape and so if I mean, if we say this one's okay, is everyone going to want one going down this development? And
Well, let's hold on deliberation. I'm gonna
Yeah,
get
yeah,
back to
sorry,
you in
sorry, I
terms of
should-
your
yeah.
opinion of it.
yeah, I just
But
want,
right now, I think we want to gather information.
yeah, I had one more question.
Go ahead.
On that, where where you showed the stumps in the photograph. The buildings, those buildings in the background there, they're not part of the development, correct?
So Arkansas Ave is constructed in the most confusing way for me to be able to explain it to you. We have one section of housing, so you pull into our driveway off Arkansas Ave. We had one section of housing that faces this way, our housing that faces towards Nantucket Beach, and that far one that you see there faces off towards another angle.
Okay.
So it's
I
three,
misread it.
yeah, it's three, like 6-unit housing developments.
Okay, because in the drawing, it looks like they're, row houses, like.
Right, it
in a
is,
city.
it's,
Well, they
townhouse
are.
condo style.
Yeah, so the row house that he lives in is obviously the one with the
Yeah.
blue line going right through it. The other one that you're looking at is that one.
Correct.
That's in the distance, they're all
Okay.
those
All right,
condo.
okay, I just wanted to
Yeah.
get that clear, because when I looked
And
at it.
there's vegetation cutting between those two properties that they can't see the fence. They can't even see the fence that's in our backyard.
Questions from board members, informational questions. Joe?
Yeah, just point of clarification, the previous image, the yellow is actually your property, right? You're looking across from Arkansas across 78 and 76, and you're the yellow one.
Correct.
right?
It goes 78, 76, and then 74, which is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
So the fence then you have is between the picket fence between 76 and 74, you being 74. That's that blue line right there. Does it go across the back of Oakland as well?
No, sir, we stopped it about 10 yards short or 10 feet short of Oakland.
But do you want your yard fully enclosed? Is that what you're looking? to?
I'm just trying to make sure the fence is all right to begin with. We're satisfied with the way our yard is now. I'm not gonna be asking for more or trying to take for more than what we have.
So then the 5-in-1 fence, Ray, that you pointed out, your neighbor's fence there, that goes back between 74 and 72,
Correct,
partially down
Correct.
the
So-
lot line?
correct. So the way the fence is structured right now, it's blocked from the first row of fence. You can't see it from the roadside. We spoke to our the property owner of 72, Dave Cocker. And he's the one that is very happy that we put the fence up to keep the dog from getting in either into his yard or being a nuisance to him.
Okay.
He wanted the fence up the way it was. We went straight back off the property line. So the dogs could have more fun to run around. He enjoys sitting on the back deck and watching the dogs kind of play with each other.
So the only amount of fence that's existing is along that one property line, but in an ideal world, you want it to enclose the entire yard?
So the one fence that comes off is this one that you see, and then our other property line had already been fenced off.
The
Right
5-in-1.
Right,
is
so
already
in
there.
your house, when you look out, on the left side, you see a 5-in-1, and on the right side, you're seeing your picket fence. You've got two different fences visible from inside your yard. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
The first three that are on the 72 Arkansas Ave side were already erected before
Right,
we had moved
right.
in.
okay.
I'd like to move this.
Yeah, what, I do want to hear from Holly.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Just briefly, I just wanted to make it a point that this is Tristram's Landing, the catalyst that made the entire island a historic district in 7071. And I do think that's just important to understand that when these structures were originally built, when they were settled, if you will, when they had original fences. So, more than likely there was a fence here in the 70s when these structures were built, and the fence that fell over back in, before this gentleman owned the property, more than likely could have been from that time frame. So I just think that's important, and that all these properties essentially could have fences, but this is specifically for his fence to put it back. Thank
Correct.
you, Mr.
There was fencing there prior to us even moving into the house.
Understood.
Uh,
Thank
thank
you. Holly, good? Okay, is there anyone in the audience or on Zoom that wants to speak on this application before I turn it over to the board? Your name for the record, please. Okay, there you go. Thank you. Okay, board members,
I'll go.
thanks.
I think this is, well, first of all, I don't have a concern with the fence. I think if there's a concern with the style, it can be addressed with a condition on the approval that when this fence is, including the new extension to go up, once it's to be replaced, it'll be replaced by a more typical fence. But for the duration of its useful life, it's fine as it is. I'll note that if the neighbors start to put in fences, could we have the site plan, please? I mean, everybody has a right to a fence. We're looking at that from, I believe, this location. So if the neighbor decides to put in a fence on the other side of his property, we're not going to see this fence. So I'm not concerned about the neighbor putting in a fence. I'll also note this is like Parkinson's law. The work complicates to fill the available time. Which I think we can just move this along.
That was cool. I gotta write that down. Yeah, I agree, Stephen. Any other comments on this fence?
I just was wondering, is there going to be a 6-foot fence or 5 and 1?
I think it's a 6-foot fence.
We want to get that section that allows visibility into our backyard fixed as soon as possible.
The request is for a 6-foot fence, and I believe that's what's in place.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're not changing it. We're not going to add 7 different styles of fencing. It's, like I said, we were going to be finishing the fencing off and we got notified. Shame on me for not knowing about the permit application, but once
That's
we
all right.
got the notification that we needed to apply for a permit, we stopped doing everything we needed to see if this was even worth investing more into to try to keep the dogs.
Take care of your dog.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
important.
And I think
Okay.
the only thing I would add is that it's too bad it's not a 6 or 5 and 1 fence to match everything else, but given the location, and I think, if the neighbors come in against on Arkansas for a fence, we probably wouldn't approve a picket fence.
Sir, and that's fine. If there was any
Right.
neighbors in our housing complex that had any issues with it, we would address it. But everybody so far that has visibility that drives into our yard, we've spoke with and are all for it.
Very good.
Can
Thank
I-
you.
Can I get a?
All right. Yes. Stephen.
If there's another comment, I want to get a clarification.
Oh, okay. Anything else from the board members?
I was just gonna say that in the future, that they'll come before us and we can okay a 5 and 1 and make it what we'd like.
Well,
to
it's
see.
sort of to Stephen's point, that it could be remedied, or was that Joe's point? One of you made the point of like, in the future, we could remedy it.
Yeah.
With the next go round. Okay, Stephen, you wanted to,
Yeah, I just want to get a clarification on the application. This is for the as-built or the as-built and the additional section.
The,
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to approve. I'll do it.
Okay.
Hold on, everybody. Give the guy a chance.
we don't slept on.
Give the guy a chance to speak. Everybody wants to help so we can move this along. I'll make a motion to approve through staff the as-built condition and the extension of the new section based upon a pre-existing fence condition. And I think I would do it as a new application fee.
absolutely.
All right.
Sounds good. All right, so that is Stephen's motion. For those of you sitting on the application, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? There you go, sir.
Thank you. So just for clarification, new application tomorrow. To
No,
to finish
the
the
staff will
fence up.
write it up through you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Staff will write up that motion. We come in, get your COA and you're good to go. It's under 7 feet tall. You don't need a building permit. Just try and observe your lot lines and you'll be good.
Easy enough. Thank you
Okay.
very
There you
much.
are.
Order your fence.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're to 8B Bayberry Lane. Aye. Did we? No, we didn't review this yet. No, okay.
Sorry for my tardiness last week, Chairman Ray. I was out sailing and the wind died on me, so
Oh, you just couldn't make it.
I just to be
You need
honest,
to get one of those little
That's,
Evan Root.
I know.
Okay, so Tobias, your extra member is going to be Carrie on this one, all right?
Lovely, thank you.
Thanks. All right, go ahead.
This is 8B Bayberry, solar for Jeff Morash. We've already done solar for his son on the house closer to Bayberry Lane. And we're proposing to do solar on the dormer and then on the backside of the structure. Pretty straightforward. And we even reduced one of the panels so you get that nice square configuration that the board loves to see.
So here conspicuously noted on your one of your aerial photos, it says panels will not be visible from public way.
Correct.
That's a bold assertion.
The,
I see it's at the back here. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. No, I didn't say. Carrie, go.
I reviewed this previously.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if the road along the back parallel with Bayberry is a public way, because it's sort of, it's the front door, the front of the house is actually where the panel goes. But the way the new property is situated is actually the back of the house. So
Yeah.
It's a little bit confusing and.
yeah, so they're working on finishing the driveway. So, you know, I don't want to get into a discussion about front doors and whatnot, Carrie, but they are finishing the driveway. So the main entrance will be from Bayberry.
Right.
That there is a fire road that is not a public way. I went and double checked.
It's not a public
It
way.
is not a public way. If it was, I would be the first to tell you.
Okay, because that was my only sort of question in this application.
Yep, and then there is a black roof as well.
Mm-hmm. You know, Tobias, to Carrie's question, from the locust plan, it looks like there actually are some roads that come off of that so-called fireway.
If you want to go, do you want to pull up the locus above and I can,
I'll just show you what it, oh, there it is, right, so like this. And that,
right?
Now, what are those?
are those drives?
There's really just one drive currently,
Where's?
but all the frontages are on Bayberry.
Understood.
So it's, I might describe it, Chairman Pohl, as a situation where you have like these paper roads, but only like one tenant uses them. So like the road is grown over, so it's virtually impassable in the center unless you're really trying to get some nice Nantucket striping in.
Okay. All right, is it, anybody want to speak on this?
I just want to orient myself. I've got on my UP, it's between Tacoma and Rugged Road. Is that Bayberry?
Bayberry and like the state forest. Anybody play disc golf? Disc golf?
Yes, yeah.
It's like the north side of the disc golf course.
Okay,
So if you're coming down Rugged Road,
yeah, gotcha.
there's the parking, you kind of pull off to the left there
Mhm.
on the side of Rugged Road. Then you walk in, hit the back 9.
Mhm.
This would be close to hole number like 7, I guess.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
good.
Mhm.
All right, comments from the board on the application.
I'll go.
Stephen,
It's in the back of the house, so it meets our guidelines
there you go, on a black roof.
on a black roof.
Yeah. Who's next?
I'll go.
Carrie.
I'm taking that new driveway as the front of the house, so I'm fine.
Okay. There's Carrie. Anyone else?
I can go.
Yes.
I know the area now that I know where it is. And it's very wooded and I think it's fine.
Sounds good. Diane?
Yep, my question was, when I reviewed it, was whether you could see the houses stuff from the back road, but if the back road is not a public road, number one, then I have no problem.
All right, folks, I think we're good to go on this one.
I'll make a, you know,
A motion.
a motion.
There it is.
With the proviso about keeping the wooded area on that back side of the structure that we had in question.
Okay.
If you catch my drift. Because I think that would be the only reason we could actually okay this.
So
because it-
keeping the vegetation
Yeah.
on the eastern property line.
Yes, that's
Okay.
my motion.
All right, very good. There's Abby's motion. All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Go
everyone.
Buys. How about 65 Main Street? Do we have somebody to represent that? In Zoom? Okay,
Yes, hi, this is Sheila Craig. I'm with Bisbano and Associates Architects, and we were hired by Bank of America to replace the windows at 65 Main Street. 5 of the windows on the second floor, but the arch top windows.
okay, very
Those
good.
2 on the top, and then on the front of the building as well, there are 3. And do you have the set of drawings there also? Because we have pictures of the the damaged windows as part of that. There you go. If you click on the one with the photos, next one up. 12, number 12.
Hmm.
Up one, you're going the wrong way, the other. There you go. So if you can zoom in on those, you can see these, the maintenance for CBRE, who manages the buildings, have noticed that these windows are deteriorating, and they really keep this building in tip-top shape, so they want to get ahead of it. So what we plan on doing is taking out the windows and the frames, taking the windows to the shop, putting plywood in the interim, and removing the wavy glass. There are a number of wavy glass panes in these windows, and we are going to try and replace those, put them into the new sash, and rebuild the windows exactly the way they're built, single pane. And the
Using
frames,
the old glass.
yes, as just the wavy glass, the other glasses.
Oh, okay, the stuff that's new, obviously.
Right, I think, there might be 10 or 12 pieces that are wavy in total. And we are going to make them operable again, although they won't actually be operated. They're always kept shut. So yeah, it's really, the objective is to create the exact same window that's existing, a new window, a new sturdy window. As you can see, that's a good photo. They're really in rough shape.
Yeah, that's evident. Okay, that sounds good. Holly, I'm sure you've got something to say on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So 65 Main Street is obviously the Pacific National Bank from circa 1818. It's individually significant to the whole national district, and it's also HABs documented. Obviously, window replacements in the OHD are before you because it's in the OHD. These would be for 5 windows on the second floor into TDLs. So this is a like kind wood windows replacement. Not sure when the original, these were installed. They seem to be later sashes. Obviously, the wavy glasses are a lot older. And although they're not a full interior photos of the window sash conditions, it's clear that these are, there's definitely some rot and whatnot. And at the end of the day, restoring is always better. But with like kind replacements, I didn't see any further concerns. And appreciate that Bank of America is trying to be a good steward of this individually significant structure. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great. Do we have Angus or Mickey on?
I'm here, Ray. It's Mickey.
Hi, Mickey.
Hey, so we did look at this also. From the photographs, it looks like the windows need reglazing, they need repainting. They don't appear to be terribly rotten, like real evidence of rotten wood. Generally speaking, these are very old windows, if not original. I would, everybody will be better off in the long run restoring these windows, keeping the old wood, which will last another century if you treat it properly. So we'd rather not see these replaced, but restored. Thanks.
Okay, Mickey, thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on this application before I turn it to the board? The board, by the way, in this case will include Connie.
I appreciate your comment about keeping the original. This was brought to us by the maintenance people, and they're really on top of this structure. It's just a very important building to them in their inventory of buildings. But this is the pictures that I showed you were the one sash that we could get open, and they're all painted shut. So I think that they've I don't have the photos to show you, but I think there's worse damage than what it shows in that photo. So they're pretty adamant. The maintenance really wants to replace them. So for what that's worth.
Okay, thank you. All right, board members, I'd like to hear from you folks.
Well, I'll say something.
That sounds fine, Diane, go ahead.
I was at the hashtag reading yesterday as a silent attender, and the description of the windows with the old glass, I guess most of the glass is wavy of the old type, and they felt that the windows were not in such bad condition that they couldn't be restored, and a lot of the peeling stuff was on the interior, and the window that we see with the leak in it isn't rotten, may need to be fixed or whatever, but I would hope that we would keep the original windows that are there and not replace them. We've gone through this building before over the last 2 years when they wanted to replace all the lamps, the lights and stuff. And it's one of our major buildings on Main Street that it is indeed our historical labeled building, and I would like to see them try and come up with it rather than replace.
Okay, Diane, thank you. Who's next?
I can go because I have a question too.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this doesn't show any storm windows at all. It's just
Bless you. There are none, I don't.
Yeah.
There are no storm windows. There are no screens and no storm windows.
right. And my second sort of comment is that arched window. I don't quite understand how they're going to without restoring this as is, restoring the actual historic window, I don't. Would you ever order a window like that?
No, they're
You
good.
can't, or this is all custom made. It's going to be custom fabricated in a wood shop, most likely a wood shop in New Hampshire.
And would they be SDLs or would they have a
TDL.
Would they have
That's up to us.
TDL? Okay.
Well, they're not even requesting SDL, they're
Okay.
requesting TDL.
Well, given all of that, I would prefer to see these restored as the, work on the original window here. I think that would, I mean, it's an important building. It's at the top of Main Street. I just think it should be a restoration. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Who's next?
Okay, so I'll disclose, I am a Bank of America account holder.
Oh, you have to recuse.
And I'm. well, I can
I'm
speak,
kidding.
I can speak very impartial.
Yeah.
I just hope that these custom windows aren't gonna mean we don't get any increase in our deposit.
Slapped with an interest rate.
In any event, I think, it's appropriate to look at these as, first and foremost, a restoration, and in the instances where they can't be restored, demonstrably, reasonably, that it would be a replication. And since these are going to be custom, I think if there's a replication, it would make sense if there's any historic glass that it just be simply reused. It's not all the windows. My reading of the application was that it's some of the windows.
5.
Yeah, so it's going to be important that they're exact replications, and I believe the drawings reflect that, but I think our motion should clarify that. If something is replaced, that it is an exact replication of the system. That's it, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Connie?
I echo what Stephen was gonna say or said. I'd be much more in favor of restoration, but if that's not possible, then I would like some kind of caveat that it is like kind and it still reflects the historic value of the building.
Okay, Connie, thank you. It sounds like the consensus view is to restore where possible. And only when you run into rot would we have you would rebuild. Yeah, okay. No, I was just gonna make an observation. It's interesting thing about single pane glass like this. What happens is when you get a cold in the when the air is cold outside in the wintertime and it's warm inside, you get condensation all over the glass, and it runs down and it sits on the bottom of the sash, and it does that for 100 years. And what you inevitably get is rot at the bottom. You can see in this one photograph how basically the two pieces of the sash have become disconnected. That's because that little joint absorbs all that water. So I can understand with the age of these things that there is going to be a certain amount of that going on. It happens all over. But so Stephen is going to make a motion. I believe you were about to make a motion.
Yeah, I'll just comment on your comment. I think,
Yeah.
There's a little, I'm struggling the incongruency of the maintenance grouping on top of maintenance of these conditions exist. So obviously we hope that once these are replaced, that, we get another 150 years out of them.
Yeah.
As I think Mickey mentioned, the old wood is going to last longer than the new wood. Did a historic farmhouse renovation over in Toshima Farms, put in some new windows. Within 3 years, the wood had rot on it. So just, it's important to keep in mind. And we're rushing to zero net and carbon sequestration. I'll get that word out one way or the other.
You did. Got it.
Is, one element of that. So with all that said, the motion is to, through staff, window restoration where not possible due to rot, replication, and reuse of glass.
Could I just make sure that I understand Stephen's motion? So to be restored, the existing windows to be restored. And where there might be rot, that would be the only part that would be.
Right, so they may have to replace a sash or they may have to replace a
Okay.
frame, but the idea would be to restore anything possible. And, obviously.
Got it.
on the honor system.
Yeah. We do rely on
Can
trust.
I ask a question before we vote on it?
Yes, of course.
Has a study of the windows been done by a professional person that says that they're in bad shape or in in good shape.
Well, to be clear, the motion is actually not to have them rebuild new windows. The
Yeah.
motion is to have them refurbish the existing.
Yeah, that's the one. I just
Yeah.
want to know that they're not going to say, oh.
Oh, they're all
yeah,
crummy.
they're all bad.
Yeah, right.
That was my concern, that somehow that was worded in.
Mr. Chair,
Holly.
I know you have a motion sitting on the floor, but I did speak with the applicant quite a bit on this application. The fact that it's in the OHD, it's on an individually significant structure and what you all look for. And mentioned that window surveys are imperative, especially for a structure of this age. What she's provided is as best as she could provide with coming to the island and getting access into the structure. So with that note, my understanding is that they have great folks that are working on these windows or will be working on these windows.
Okay.
We do, the contractor who will be doing this project most likely has done several projects on this particular building, so they're very familiar with it. So, and they're top notch.
They've worked on brownstones before, and that was kind of one of my
Oh,
my concerns as well.
Oh, yes.
So the motion is restoration where required, replication reviews.
And the original wavy glass when applicable. That is Stephen's motion. All those in favor of Stephen's motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? There we go. Thank you. Ethan, it's your turn with the town of Nantucket at Sun Island Road. Milestone. Interesting. A new dorm for the town of Nantucket.
Specifically the airport.
Cool. All right. Ethan, go.
Okay, Ethan Griffin.
Sorry. Joe's on this.
Okay.
Okay.
Ethan Griffin, on behalf of the applicant, just give you a little background. This is a massive parcel. In 2017, that shaded section was designated by the airport as a potential site for housing. The airport completed a environmental impact study for their entire complex. And through that, this parcel was given a relatively small area of the limit of disturbance, which is outlined in red on this. So while there is a large parcel within another large parcel, all construction, staging, disturbance, et cetera, is limited to this one area. There was some feedback from the public via the airport commission prior to our involvement. And I believe the major suggestion was to move the building to as far north of the limited disturbance as possible. So that's what we've attempted to do. And this will be a new dormitory, single story, modular construction. It's 22 feet at the ridge. There is a sunken patio on the one side of it. It's white trim, natural weather, black roof. One of the mandates is that it's going to have to be solar ready, and it's going to be all electric service for it. And that is the gist of it. It's about 3,500 square feet, single story, 22 feet high.
Okay. Thanks. It does appear that the current bike path runs right in front of the little amphitheater piece. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's close now. We've previously discussed kind of scooching.
Close.
It's close. It's about 15 feet off. The scale it's a pretty good sized structure. But yeah, we'd like to get that to closer to 20 feet.
Okay. Does anyone else want to speak on this before I turn it over to the board? Silence. Okay, that means it's going to the board. Comments from the board. Don't be shy. Everyone's digesting.
They who owns land,
Sorry,
Airport.
who owns the land now?
I think the town.
It's the town care of the airport commission, I believe, is technically the.
Yeah, do you have elevations? Because I don't have my pad.
Oh, you don't have your thingy there.
Can we see the elevations?
So
Yeah, you want.
could we get the elevations up on the screen for Abby?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
my computer's frozen, files too.
Oh, no, here.
I can
here.
share with
Yeah,
Diane.
okay.
Oh, thanks. I get my own.
They're going to have the their driveway going into this building. This is the bike path, right?
I'm certain that it does.
That's what it
yeah.
looks like, yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Thought that was sort of. The point of bike path.
The loop, the bike path that goes around Pulpus Road to Milestone, that loop. Somebody counted up, there are 89 crossings, driveway crossings going around that thing. 89 potentials for a bike collision with a car.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
But yeah, that's the fact of the matter. I don't think there's any way around that because the bike path goes across the entire parcel. Anything else? I guess we should ask about the trim colors, et cetera.
Sure, it's a white trim, white trim, white sash.
White trim, white sash. Okay.
What about the doors, front door?
The white for the doors as well.
The whole thing is white?
White sash, white doors, white trim, natural weather sidewall, black asphalt shingles.
Do you have the site plan so I can see the neighborhood?
This is right across the street from the new school, if you know, or Strong Wings.
Correct. The ball field, you can see Delta Fields to the east, and this is right above Park Circle.
In Nobody or Farm Road, as it right close to where it hits Milestone Road. Nobody or Farm.
Right, so it's buffered from the street.
Correct. Yeah. So there's that whole buffer that's between the bike path and the street. And then again, we're further limited by the limit of disturbance for any site disturbance staging. We can't be outside of that.
Is there some particular reason that everything is white?
I'm sorry?
I said, is there any particular reason that the trim and the doors, the sashes are all white and no?
We're open to the board's feedback on that.
Great.
I think it would be good to get rid of some of the white, make the front doors soft blue, gray, sash, something to give it some, that didn't look like it fell from somewhere there.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. So far, the white trim is the issue on the table. Joseph, anything?
Well, I appreciate that it's single story and given its location and the fact that it's screened from the street, I think I'm okay with all that. And I don't want to be nitpicky. I mean, I don't like gable vents, but you need the gable vents. And
Yeah, we're anticipating that. Yeah.
And do you does it apply on this? Do you meet there's a maximum ridge length of 50 feet? You look
For the modules.
just in general by zoning, is
Oh.
there a maximum ridge length?
I thought there was an HDC thing, which we
Okay,
are under.
50 feet is not a zoning.
No. Thought it was like height.
Now you got me second guessing. But where do you see the 50 feet between?
No,
those
I'm
two
just
gables?
curious what the lengths are. I mean, it's nice that it's all single story, but it's a little bit pancakey. But I don't know if I really, given its location, I think it's probably fine.
Well, that's the reuse plant show.
What's that?
It'll be Nantucket Pancake House.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little peculiar that you're driving by the back of it on the bike path and, you know, I kind of feel like the front could be presented to the bike path, just reverse the whole thing and there's a sequence, the parking lot is in the back. The front of it faces the parking lot, so. And that, I mean, that seems like a big move to, because of the bike path, but.
Yeah, I mean, we are at this point, I think we're really like to get feedback on the design of the structure. There may be adjustments to the site as well. Our next step is actually to meet with the fire department to make sure that their vehicle access situation is covered. So we may be coming back with adjustments to the orientation.
Okay. Anything else, Joseph?
No, thanks.
Okay, Stephen?
I'd like to see the adjustments to the orientation.
He'd probably want to know in what way should he be
Well, I agree.
adjusting the orientation.
I mean, it seems that the fact that you're thinking about it indicates that you guys understand there's some issues. Or you've got some other plans.
It's more, quite frankly, it's more, we're curious to see what they're going to say about moving the emergency vehicles around the site. That's probably going to be the biggest influence on the orientation of this.
I'm sorry, Ethan, through you, Mr. Chair, can you repeat that?
Sure. So the next step for us is to go to the fire department and talk to them about their vehicle access. That's probably going to be the biggest factor in terms of the orientation. They may say, we want the parking closer to the front, so we can kind of get in there. They may say they want it alongside and rotate this. And we're, obviously planning to come back if there's any major adjustments like that. But we really would be at this meeting, like to focus on, attributes of the building that we also would need to address or potentially be approved.
Okay, thank you. So a couple more comments. One, I do think it's inappropriate to have that sunken area adjacent to the bike path. A portion of the vegetative barrier is going to be, well, two portions of it will be in a step down retained area. So it's going to be difficult to block that off. And the proximity to the bike path, I think, is problematic, especially since you're going to have overdig when you're going to put in these walls. So that's going to be a clear shot. I do appreciate the fact that it's one story. I would like to get a better idea. This has come up before, not here. This is not, my understanding, the only structure that will be in this area for this use. And it would be beneficial to get an idea of what will be there and how it's going to be laid out.
And I do appreciate that. If I could address that through the chair quickly. There is potentially, so they do have that larger shaded area that you see on the site plan that has been in 2017 was designated for use of housing. Currently, so it took about 5 years to get the limit of disturbance defined for this part of the project. Big part of that is the money that they're going to get allocated to do this project, and then going back and having another environmental impact report is going to define, sort of that next phase. It's hard to say with any sort of definity, but that's probably looking like 10 to 15 years probably to get that done. So while there is thought of, what else can we put on the site, it is quite a bit out to the point we haven't really done any significant investigation. And quite frankly, I don't know that the airport's ready to invest in that because there's so many other things that need to occur prior. But I do appreciate that comment.
Hang on 1 second. Just 1 second.
Yeah, I'll go quick. Yeah, my understanding is that it's a little more current than that, potentially current than that, Ethan, but I think we'd like to get a clarification on that firm because,
Sure.
One of the things, this could be akin, not nearly as dense, but to a subdivision. And we'd like to keep an eye on the initial, basically this is, whether in the end it looks like it or not, this is the anchor point for the rest of it. So if you could confirm and clarify to us that it is a 10 to 15 year window, that would change my perspective. Otherwise, I'd like to see some development concepts so we understand how this piece fits into the whole.
Oh, sure. Okay. This is Phil Cox from CHA Companies. He's the airport's OPM.
Okay.
Good evening.
Hi.
Thank you for having us here, Mr. Chairman and chair people. We are currently looking at just this building. The original concept was to have 8 to 10 units in that area, but we don't have the funding nor the application for the environmental part of that. So we have a limit of disturbance we have to work with. So currently, the only building that we're looking at is this current one. We appreciate your comments on the orientation. And as Ethan said, we're meeting with the fire department tomorrow. Our estimation is that we can easily turn that to at least a 90-degree so that the well for the basement is not directly up against the bike path. So then we could do that, change it either 90 degrees or else flip it entirely. So the well from the basement is on the other side. But again, that's going to have some input from the fire department. But at the moment, we do not have the ability to do a full build out plan because we don't have the environmental assessment done to determine whether that's actually even feasible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any
Thanks, Steve.
questions?
Good for now. Thanks.
Okay. Diane.
My question was the second, was lower level. What are you, how much are you digging out to create that lower level? Are you changing the lay of the land?
Well, they're cutting it into the ground.
Yeah, well, how deep are you going?
Looks like about 8 feet.
Yeah, the net drop would probably be about 8 feet. They'll probably do about 10 feet of excavation.
The land doesn't drop, but you have to cut it.
That's correct. It's a relatively flat site.
There's that, so that's part of the story of that lower level type of story. I'd like to see if possible some more sort of precise details on this plan. This plan is not a plan that I would feel comfortable about including as to what is where, what's going to, where you're going to have air conditioning, where you're going to have rubbish, what's that square that goes off to look like the north. Where you got handicap parking. I'd like to see what it is that we're approving, not just a very plain item here.
And just to clarify to the board, if I may, we do plan on coming back with a more site-specific
plan.
application.
Yeah.
But we will certainly clarify some of that information whenever possible on the drawings.
Okay. Thank you. Abby, you haven't spoken yet.
My concern is,
I didn't have concerns to start with, but now that people are talking, I'm interested in the orientation now because you know, I'm comparing this to the VFW where you come into well, if you come off whatever that is, South Road,
New South Road.
you there's nothing to greet you. I would like the elevation that faces the bicycle path to have a welcoming front door of some sort. And I think it should be toned down. I think white is going to be awfully flashy. I think gray trim and gray windows would be sort of sit a little bit better in that sort of wooded area and sort of keep the bicycle path a little bit more natural, which, you know, I'm sure you'll have a landscape plan, but I think looking down and seeing that well from the bicycle path is not very inviting. That's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, Abby, thank you. So Ethan, in its current configuration, I would be the first person to ride my bike over that wall and down into the amphitheater. Guaranteed. So I'm in favor of moving that, not just for aesthetic reasons, but for frankly, I'm terrified even looking at this site plan. Because I just imagine myself going over there. And I'm the Stephen says ABW, anything but white school on this one. Those are my comments. What do you think? There you go. All right, Stephen's made a motion without.
Do you guys
white
like
trim.
gray?
I
and
think
maybe
he's got that
Newport blue
part.
for the doors?
Hmm?
Gray sash with Newport blue for the doors? Gray trim and sash?
Gray, yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
Can we get a little Newport blue though on
Yeah,
the doors?
it's
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, something different
Okay.
than white.
Anything but white. Okay, so that's Stephen's motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, very good. Thank you, Ethan.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Matthew, we're at 8 High Bush Brush Path. Howdy.
How are you?
Go ahead.
Okay,
Matthew.
thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a garage addition to an existing.
Sorry,
Sure.
it's gonna be one of those nights. Now Carrie is sitting on your application. Okay,
Great.
Carrie? Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. So this is an addition to an existing structure. The site is a little tricky because.
Sorry,
No.
interrupting
No
again.
problem.
Steven's sitting off, so it's Carrie and Connie sitting on yours.
Great.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so like I said, this is an addition. It's basically a garage addition. This person just purchased the home, desperate need of storage space. The site is really tricky because there's existing wetlands and wetland setbacks. There's also an existing septic system. So the real only location for the garage addition is where we've shown it. And it's also important that the structure is connected to the structure, primarily as it relates to the septic system, the Board of Health regulations. Now, we did connect it on the first floor and it is tucked behind the building. But I wanted to at least give you some feedback or background in terms of why we place the structure where it is and the form it's in. So with that, what we did is it's a 2-car garage. It has a finished space above and all the exterior trim details, window styles, color scheme all match the existing house. And with that, I look forward to comments from the board, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else, Zoom or in the room, who would like to speak on this application before it goes to the board?
Mr. Chair, could I also just, in terms of the scope of the addition, if I could, I
Yeah.
apologize, I forgot. We also added an intersecting gable addition to the front porch to further emphasize the front entry door. So,
Gotcha.
thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, board members, once you've had a chance to,
We just
Review
asked,
it.
we asked a question.
yeah, go ahead, Diane.
The height of the garage is 23, 2 feet.
I believe that's what's on the application. Yes.
That's what's.
Yes.
on there. Fine. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
I feel like this addition overwhelms the suite for the farmhouse, and I think the connection is not very sensitive to the existing building. I think the massing is almost as big as the main mass. And that just makes me stop right there and say, I think you gotta rethink some.
Okay.
Those photographs, of the existing structure don't help.
Yeah, they're very,
Kinda
very
cute.
charming. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it looks,
On the left. Keeping it away from it, so that, you're like, you're keeping that dormant, but you're obliterating it because you're 5 feet away from it.
because of the proximity.
I can go.
Let's make sure. Carrie, have you finished? Okay, very good. Thank you. Abby.
I just want to reiterate what Carrie just said, because it's such a charming building. It's I think it really should be, what's it called, freestanding and not, it's not really attaching very well to that structure.
Okay.
Go,
Thank you, Abby. Go ahead, Diane.
I'm with them.
All right. Connie,
Me too. Freestanding and reduced, maybe.
yeah. Right, so I actually am the fifth person on this that agrees with the initial statement about its sort of scale in relation to the charming house. Oh, so all the roof pitches the existing roof pitches are eights. Because
Yes.
the new ones are eights.
Yes.
Okay, so that's not the issue. It just maybe seems too wide or something.
Scale.
Having difficulty trying to put my finger on it, but it definitely overwhelms the house. What do you say, folks? Should we just hold for some revisions on this guy?
I make a motion to over this.
All right, very good. That's Diane's motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes, pizza's here. Should we take a little break? All right, you guys want to take a little break? It's 8 minutes after. Do you think 7 minutes is enough time to wolf down 2 or 3 pieces of pizza?
This is why I come to the age.
Okay, so we're gonna reconvene at 5:15, okay?
What did they?
You want a piece? I'll get you. Are we?
We're officially on break right now
What's your?
till
Like
5:15.
Like a margarita?
I guess
Hey, folks. Thanks. We're all very satisfied now. 47 Baxter. Do you have anybody to rep that? He is. If we have somebody on this, Joseph, it's back to you.
Hello. I don't know if you can hear me.
Oh, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. So this application is actually kind of extension of what we had previously approved. We're just trying to get pretty much another section of the porch filled with the windows, like the left side. So if you look at that picture or the elevation, west elevation, there are two windows that are existing on the left, and there is two open sections which we previously had the left one approved on consent, and now we are actually asking for filling also the right one the same way, like matching the windows that are on the left, making it looking exactly the same. So yeah, there is towards the end, there is actually what was approved previously.
Revisions and window.
All right, Uri. Thank you. Holly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So for the record, there was no historic information with this application, and that's why it was not graced for the consent agenda. This is a circa 1904 Victorian eclectic on Baxter Road. And while I agree that the proposed infill of the porch is appropriate, again, there was no historic information. So staff recommends, if the commission so inclined to approve, to please go through staff to have the appropriate historic information included in the application and on the
Okay.
COA. Thank you.
Holly, thank you. And do we have Rob on for Sconset?
Rob did send me an email and said he had they had no concerns
They had
on the
no
application.
concerns. Okay, very good.
Sorry, Holly, you had.
She wants historic information. Did I say that? Yeah, okay.
So
Um,
if I add the historic, sorry.
hang on, Uri. Anybody else want to speak on this application before it goes to the board? And again, the board in this case includes Joseph. All right, it's to the board. Thank you. You go ahead, Abby.
I think because they've already put in one, I think it's a sort of an addition that's done on this particular type of style, and I think it's appropriate. But it would be nice to have the historic history. Thank you.
Okay, Abby, thank you. Who's next?
I'll
I'll
go.
go.
Oh, go ahead, Dan.
Diane, go.
Oh, it's not going to go around to the side. It's just going to be that spot on the front, right?
It's actually on the side of the building.
Yeah, but it's not going to do the one. But I can't see what.
It's these two.
Only these two that are bubbled.
Correct.
Okay. No, I could go with what they have requested filling in.
Okay, thank you. Who's next? Oh, Stephen, go.
I'll go. Yeah, my only concern is if the center post is not equidistant from the right and left shingle style posts, that the windows are not going to be correctly sized, which is to say they're not going to be all in the same proportions. So I think that if this is approved, that center post, it needs to include a condition that the center post is equidistant. If it's not equidistant, it's made equidistant.
Good point.
Yeah, we actually measured it and it is.
You said it is?
Yes, it is. It is all perfectly like exactly sized. All the windows will be the same.
Okay.
And
So both bays, the rough openings are the same?
yes,
Okay. I still think we should put the condition on.
Yeah, I don't think there's any harm in putting that condition in. Stephen, thank you. Let's see, Joseph, to you.
Yeah, I have no issues. I reviewed this for consent actually and thought it was appropriate. And there's a lot of examples of this along Baxter Road happening with this type of house. So I think it's fine. And I like Stephen's suggestion because it does look a little bit, the openings look a little bit off, but I think it might be because
Well, that
the-
one is conspicuously off, the one to the right of where this is going.
More than parallax error.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, it's because
All right,
of the
so
camera
you're right.
view.
It sounds like you're gonna get an approval on this with two conditions, one being providing historic information through staff. And the second, to Stephen's point about the bays being equal and therefore the infill windows all being the same size. Does somebody want to make that?
That's my motion. Mr.
Oh, that
Chair.
is Stephen's motion. How about that? Okay, all those in favor of Stephen's motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, very good. Thank you, your aye.
Thank you. Very much.
Okay, is Elizabeth around?
I'm with you.
Oh, hi. You're hiding.
I zoomed over.
I'll say. All right, so first order of business is in the rotation, we're back to Carrie. So Carrie will sit on both of your applications. All right. All right, so the first of which is pool hardscape.
So this is for an in-ground swimming pool behind garage that you've approved.
Okay.
It's a little bit of hardscape around it. Two would be wood in grade. And then the ones at each end of the pool would be stone. And we have a little bit of fencing that's illustrated on the upper right of the plan. Picket fence with cap. And a vehicular gate at the driveway.
Is that it,
Yep.
Elizabeth? Okay. All right. Holly,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, for the record, this property is an infill within the Cliff area neighborhood. This is for a proposed 18 by 40-foot pool with a driveway and apron. An 8-foot board fence is proposed also along the property line of North Star Lane. However, one, there should be vegetation on the outer side to soften it. Two, it should not run past the facade of the proposed picket fence as shown on the site plan of the main house and 2 Highland Ave. The proposed fence is white, or at least that's what's shown on the application. And I had a question on, is that all or just the picket? And then concerned about if that includes the gates. And the gates like these, I believe are not appropriate in this area. And question about, I know that based on the photographs here and seeing what the site looks like currently, that there are existing remaining trees. And I'm hopeful that those trees are being remain on site. And if that's what's being shown on the site plan, it's not clear. So anyway, those are my comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
okay, Holly, thank you. Mickey, do you have anything on this?
We do, thanks.
Okay.
So an 8-foot fence along North Star Lane is not appropriate. 5-in-1 fences are commonly approved between properties, but not on a street edge. And even on North Star Lane, the street edges should have a picket fence or a split rail fence or nothing at all, just landscaping. The driveway gate doesn't seem appropriate for this location. And just in general, the proposed landscape plan is using tall fences and privet hedges to create a walled off compound. Hedges and fences are fine, but they shouldn't be used to completely seal off a property. Historically, this neighborhood had fairly open yards that allowed visual access to the buildings and gardens. That's it.
Mickey, thank you. Is there anyone either on Zoom or in the room who would like to speak on this application before it goes to the board?
Could I just make a clarification?
Could you what?
Could I make a clarification?
Yes.
I believe the fence along the North Star Lane would just be 6 feet tall. So I apologize if that says 8.
It does say
Yeah.
8.
And then that would be natural. It can be screened with some vegetation, and the front one, the picket one, would be white.
The front one on Highland would
Yeah.
be white.
Yeah.
And that's a picket fence.
Yeah. And we can omit the vehicular gate. That's a pleasure.
You can omit what?
The vehicular gate. We could just leave 2 posts with a number.
You're caving too easily. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Elizabeth. All right, I think we can turn it over to the board now. Oh, do I need to pick somebody?
No.
Thank you, Carrie.
I appreciate the fact that you said 6 foot, because 8 foot is
Yeah.
not appropriate. And then I'm also not even convinced that a full 6 foot height is appropriate on this small little lane. The entire length, it seems like. And then the gates on the driveway, I'm also not in favor of. And I feel like this whole property is gonna be like a sprawl of buildings and fence and sort of like, I don't know, it's just boggled my mind because this neighborhood, there's a lot of hedges. There's not a lot of big tall fences, and I think the use of fences is a little expensive. And I get it, because you're hiding a very large pool. Is the pool part of this application, or is this?
Oh, it is.
It is.
Okay, because I think it also seems very large. I think if the decks are part of this, it's connecting the 2 houses with this, and we sort of asked that these read as 2 separate houses when they came through as, you know, the architecture for the houses. So then reconnecting them this way, it's sort of going backwards to where we came from to get them to read as 2 separate properties. So that's a little concerning. That's all I have.
Okay, Carrie,
I'll
thank you very
go.
much. Diane, go.
The fence along the side is not appropriate. That is a very open area. You can drive up there, drive all around, and you can look in and you see people's houses and gardens and not construction, but their buildings. It was not a fenced in area. To have a 8 to 10 foot hedge across the front of it is ridiculous. This is a part of the cliff that's very relaxed and easygoing, not with 10 foot high hedges and the 8 or fence, wooden slat fence all across it. If you have to have some sort of fence, then the simple fence would be the best. The simplest, the better. And no gate going into the garage. The garage should move down closer, however that much they're allowed, to get to that 10-foot hedge in the front, but not as a 10-foot hedge, and maybe decrease the size of the pool. Every it gives the impression that every inch of that property is now got some building or something on it. And that's not what Highland was like. And I find it unfortunate to have lost a piece of easygoing corner of quite an important part of our Cliff Lincoln area. So I would like to see some reduction in the pool. I'd like to see severe reduction in the fences and the hedges. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Who's next?
I'll go, Mr. Flynn.
Okay, Stephen.
Elizabeth, love your work. This is, to my mind, the boundary between the public space, the street, and the private space, you know, the front door and the front porch, well, the front door and the backyard is kind of like, it's being eliminated. And you don't have that semi-public space in between. There's no transition. This is more akin to the Lincoln Ave treatment where the houses are larger, they're further back, typically from the street. You have a large privet and you have very private yards. And this street setting, most of these homes don't have that type of sequestration of architectural element plantings, tall privet and whatnot, separating the street from the front yard. So you're losing, I think it's losing the character of the neighborhood, certainly with the gates. I'm a little less concerned about the less traveled side yard roadway, North Star Lane. That's a dead end. But that fence for me would be subject to vegetation on an alternating basis to soften that up. But I am concerned about the presentation from the street. The pool, I mean, I think the horse is out of the barn, right? The garage is where it's approved where it is. Has that been approved?
Yeah.
So my concern was that be shifted further back. And that would have made the pool necessarily smaller. I don't think the pool is going to be largely visible and therefore size, unfortunately is not maybe our purview. To the extent that these present as a single large compound, when I say these, I mean the primary structure and the neighboring dwelling.
Yeah.
I think the landscape architecture needs to take that into account, because these are typically along that street, relatively small dwellings with the privacy is created in the side yards. Again, to reemphasize the shared space, the semi-public space is preserved. And I think that this design needs to consider those more thoroughly.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Okay, Stephen, thank you. Abby, it's your turn.
Yeah, I agree with what's been said. I think the most, first of all, I miss the old streetscape of it, of the old ruralness where I think there was a modern house in there and there was lots of vegetation and it was very natural. Now it appears very formal. I think the fence along North Star and along the back, I think we need an alternative to that. I don't know anywhere where there's that much 6-foot fencing. So I would rethink that. I think the picket and the privet on the front of the house is typical. Yeah, my main concern is that fence along North Star and along continuing around the back. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm basically on board with everything, the broad brushstrokes being the sort of 8 to 10 foot high privet, the tall side fence, the very lengthy side fence running down North Star. You've already conceded on the gates going into the parking area. So I'm in general agreement with what's already been said. Shall we move this for some revisions?
Oh, for revisions?
Yeah, so Stephen has just made a motion to hold for revisions. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so now we're to 6 Highland Lane. I'm sure you all received, there were some letters. I think I remember getting a total of 3. Okay. Same board, okay? Matthew, it's to you, sir.
All right.
What I just say, Matthew? No,
That's all right. You can call me.
Wow, okay, okay. Elizabeth, I'm
I've been
so
called
sorry. I
worse.
called you Matthew.
So, there are some deed restrictions that came with this property.
Uh.
And one of them was that if a sports court was to be erected in the back or a swimming pool, that it would either include a building. In that case, the building, if it exceeded a certain height, it would be 25 feet away. So it would exceed like the standard setback that comes with that particular area of the island. And, or it could be like a structure that's 8 feet tall. So to get the little sports area there's a lot of children in this family, and it is a family compound. It is 2 families with cousins, and they do play ball and air hockey. It's not a pickleball court. It's not a tennis court. They want to be able to, maybe they would have a hoop, again, air hockey. And so we thought of doing a pergola in the back with a wall to like a kind of like a fence to protect the neighbor from the sound, from that exposure. And that would be backed with tall trees and also a hedge. So I think like the applicant is going like far and above beyond, like, building a beautiful structure back there to help mitigate the impact that it could have on the neighbors while respecting the agreement that's spelled out in the deed. The surface of the sports court, I spoke with Nantucket, Cape Island and Tennis, and they said that we can do like rubber mats on them, so that mitigates the sound of the ball bouncing. And lighting would abide by the bylaws. There would be nothing that would spill over into the neighbors. Anything that was lit would be downcast and low voltage. And also, if they play out there, it might be like an hour a day for maybe 6 weeks in the summer. And that's it. That's what that use is going to be. The rest is, the vehicular courtyard, again, a few gates, which we can eliminate if you feel like makes the property too enclosed. Yeah, so that's what I have.
So just to be clear on this, Elizabeth, not Matthew. In addition to the sports court, you're asking for a few other things in terms of the landscape.
Yeah, there was.
The 8-foot fence that I see at the perimeter is also part of your application, is it not?
That would be like for the pergola area, but the fence on the property line, I think we're required to have a fence in the deed, so we can make it lower, we can make it 6 feet. But it's just the sports court need to be screened by an 8-foot structure. So a pergola would qualify.
No, okay. I think we're talking about 2 different things. I'm looking at the side property line and I'm seeing a notation set in that looks like it may be behind a hedge. It's not really identified, but it says 8-foot fence at perimeter.
Yeah, we could.
Number 7.
Yeah.
And that appears to me to run basically all the way from the back corner past the sports court and almost to the front end of the house. That's part of this application, right?
Yes, and again, we can reduce that to 6 and we can.
Okay.
Put it
I
inside
get what you're- okay,
vegetation
gotcha.
rather than being
Okay.
on the line.
All right, thanks. Just wanted to
Right.
clarify. Elizabeth, thank you. Holly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had one question right off the get-go, is whether or not this site plan, actually the entire site plan matches the approved structures that you all reviewed with Matt, which I believe have done through staff. So I know they're pending to be formally, officially issued. So that was my first and foremost concern, of making sure that this site plan matches what was reviewed and approved by this commission.
Okay.
Also, I kind of, the restrictions, that was kind of my concern as well. I didn't think, the structure could be placed so far. I do have the restrictions before me, and I just wanted to read this section to you all. Number 2, in the event of a pool or hard surface game court is constructed within the 25 feet of the southeasterly boundary line of lot 17, a structure with a maximum height of 8 feet and a maximum height of 16 feet shall be constructed and maintained between the zoning setback line from the said boundary and the pool or game court as a sound barrier. Pool equipment shall be enclosed, otherwise given a sound barrier from lot 17. And I want to notate, although covenants and restrictions are not the purview of this commission, that would be something, that is above and beyond. I do think it's pertinent just to at least make sure that it's recognized through this review. I did want to also notate that, that I believe that, understanding the use, that's not the issue. I think it's the size, and maybe reducing the size of the court would be a little more conducive for everyone, the owners and the neighbors. But I also did want to mention that we not only do we have letters from abutters, there's abutters here, and we also have an abutter in Zoom. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And a butter on Zoom, did you say? Oh, okay. Thank you, Holly. Mickey.
Yeah, we had the same comments that we had on the other lot regarding the driveway gate and the tall fences. So that's really all we looked at. Thanks.
Okay, Mickey, thank you. Okay, now I know there's some people in, yes.
Again, I'm Ginny Clark. I live at 2 North Cliff Way. And I am the person who put the restriction on the property line. And I think there's some confusion or misinterpretation of the deed restriction. What we did, let's go to the fencing first. The fence, there's a deed restriction, or the part of the deed, closing of the deed is that a fence has to be along the back where our property line is. Nothing about fences along the sides, either sides of the property. So that fence was there. The deed restriction, as Holly just read, it says if there's a pool or a hard court, they have to put a structure that's a minimum of 8 feet high, a maximum of 16 feet high, to provide a sound barrier between either the pool or whatever court they put up. Pergola doesn't seem to me to be much of a sound barrier at all. And this is the same deed restriction that they were working under to get the cabana, to have the cabana sited where it was on the other part of the property. And when I'm looking at this application, I don't have any idea what a sports court is. I don't think there are any in this neighborhood that I can recall doing a visual mapping of the whole neighborhood between Highland and North Cliff Way and Capam Road. There's nothing, there's no outdoor sports areas. Especially with the side yard setbacks that we have in an R1 zoning of 5 feet. It seems to me that a game court, which is still unspecified, is really not appropriate at all in this area. It seems they're just kind of putting more and more in the space to fill it all up. Let's see. And I still don't know what the surface of this court will be, and whether it will have any structure on it, any tennis court, any, basketball or whatever like that, any netting. I know she just mentioned something about a rubber mat. That sounds to me like it would be pretty dull noise constantly back and forth. And it's just, it's just a neighborhood, as you've all noted in your comments, it's not a compound neighborhood, and it's not a neighborhood that really, there's so many yards that have come together in the back of the property. And as you know, sound travels everywhere, that a sports court, no matter if it's, I don't know, grass would be great. You know, if they want to run around and play on the grass, that sounds like a good idea to me. But I'm just totally against having this sports court in this area, as I believe a lot of my neighbors are, because I think you got some other letters. Our neighbor at 6 North Cliff Way was here, and she submitted a letter because she had to leave early, and she apologizes for that. But basically, the misinterpretation of the deed restriction and the fact that the game court is unspecified is this point are our main concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Anyone else in the room care to speak before I go to the person who's apparently on Zoom? Good. Okay, whoever it is on Zoom, could you unmute and give your name for the record, and then we can hear what you have to say?
Okay, I apologize. I'm waiting for the next presentation, not this one.
Sorry?
I apologize. I'm not.
You're not.
I don't
on
want to speak on
Highland
this
at
one. I
all.
want to be on the next one.
Okay, I gotcha. All right, great. Thank you. Okay, I guess if there's no one else who's going to speak on this, we can turn it over to the board. And it is Carrie sitting on this one as well as the regular board.
I have a question before we start.
Yes, sir.
So through Mr. Chair, Elizabeth, the sport court, I presume is going to have some type of a fence. I don't see anything in here.
No,
No?
well, yeah, and it has the pergola in the back that has a wall. So
Okay.
that we get that 8-foot structure that we're required to have as per the deed. But no, it's privet around it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, who would like to begin?
I'll go.
Thanks, Carrie.
Again, your 8-foot perimeter fence says 8 feet.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Just, yeah. And then again, the gates at the driveway, I don't think they're appropriate. As for the sports court, unfortunately, I know that a pickle court is 44 feet long. And a pickle court is not appropriate for this neighborhood.
They're 64 by 34. This is not a pickleball court.
A minimum pickle court is 44 long.
Well, it's not a
So-
pickle, it's not.
If you say it's not a pickle court, I believe you. I would like to know what the surface is, and I think something pervious would be, or am I getting that backwards?
Impervious.
Impervious, pervious.
Well, if it's
water goes
rated,
through it.
yeah.
Okay, pervious. Pervious would be important. I think if it were a croquet lawn, that would be great. Having a hard surface like concrete covered in rubber, not so sure about that. I appreciate the fact that there's privet. I think it's privet in boxes around it. Is that right?
Yeah,
That's what it
it's-
looks like. I just can't see where it's.
Yeah, some greenery around the space.
Cause there's some rectangles around the
Yes.
four sides of it with some openings that I'm assuming those are privet.
Yes,
Which is on the outside of the fence. Correct? Yeah, that's the way it looks on the plan at least.
it surrounds the court and there's a couple
Right.
couple
So
entrances.
I guess really just specifics on materials and construction of that sports court would be helpful.
Carrie, thank you. Who's next?
I'll go. I
Thank
guess.
you, Diane.
I think what has been said is absolutely true. I think that the sport court, if you look at that plan of this house at 6 Highland Avenue, goes from sideline to sideline and front line to rear line. Completely. I don't know what I was trying to look up and see what the size of the could build, because it is fully built except in the front, and that's how they are proposing to get in. There doesn't seem to be a garage here unless they're thinking of maybe using the other garage. So they don't need a garage, I don't know. But again, it comes down to. If you look at the old maps of the area, there were no fences. And this corner piece, which covers Highland and North Star Lane, is completely walled off one way or the other. And part of what we're supposed to be doing is making a place appropriate to what it exists with. And this particular lot, I feel, is not anywhere near what the houses are that are around it, which are more loose, simple houses in land which they have kept unfenced and in this particular area unhedged. And I would like for us to consider the fact that that's one of the things that the HDC is told to do, is to make it fit in with the existing area. That's it.
Okay, Diane, thank you. So we have Stephen and Abby.
Want to go?
Sure.
Okay.
I think the sports court is.
Inappropriate. I think the site now does seem maxed out with impervious materials. Thank you, Carrie, for that. I mean, it really does. There's no, the old streetscape is gone. So, you know, what pre-existed there, it's just been maxed out. So I'm not in favor of the sports court. Sorry to say.
Abby, thank you. Stephen.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Chair. So yeah, gate, no, the architectural elements in the court truncate the rear yard in an inappropriate and I think atypical fashion. I'd also like clarification, Elizabeth, through Mr. Chair, if I may. On the around the sport court, the privet are surrounded with something that looks like a 3-inch wide element. Is that just a CAD issue of line weight, or is there something intended to be either on the ground or around the privet?
So, I
Can
mean,
we zoom in on this privet here?
Well, Barry made the observation that it
That-
looked like the privet was planted in planter boxes.
yeah, that's,
Yeah, that's what we were
Kind of
just,
what you're talking about.
yeah, I want to get clarification on what it means.
it's a drafting issue. It's
Okay,
just
so
a
it's
head.
drafting.
There's
Not
no-
in a planter.
There's no
box.
trick, like, it's just.
Okay.
It's
just-
not,
No,
okay, I think so. The truncation, I think, is a problem. The pergola on the rear, I mean, I don't really see it having a form that suits a function. It's not something we would typically approve, a freestanding pergola that's 40 feet wide and like 3 feet in depth. And yeah, I think that's it for now.
Okay. So a few things. One is the fence that I asked about on the side yard definitely needs to be lowered. Two, I appreciate Stephen's comment about the pergola and its sort of shape and its nature and its function. It seems kind of arbitrary. And then the sports court, I helped do a sports court over at the new school, which is great for the kids. They love it a lot. The one thing I will say about it is the colors are very ostentatious. And right now we're looking at this thing that's rendered as green. So in addition to knowing what the material is and the substrate, it would be nice to know like, is it really going to be all green?
yeah,
It's going to be all green?
yeah.
It will be. Is that the sort of thing that we could see a sample of the green?
Yeah.
Like, is it Kelly green or is it going to look just like a lawn? I also think that, like most of the board, I think it's rather large for the backyard here. Should we hold this for,
I make a move to hold it for a vision.
okay.
Can I
Go-
comment on the motion?
Yeah,
I'll
of
second the
course.
motion for
Yeah,
discussion.
Yeah.
Diane, if you will, I'd like to get some clarification on the sport court, at least to the extent there's any vertical elements.
Oh,
Like,
Yeah.
let's know what they are.
If it's
If
gonna
it's
go,
basketball hoops, if it's whatever it is, we should know what's gonna be up there.
it's not, nothing, again, it needs
Yeah.
to have a little more information, don't you think?
Yeah. I
So-
think the neighbors would be interested in.
Yeah, right now it's just for loose play. I asked my client multiple times, they have no interest in pickleball. It's kids that kind of, play one type of game and then another one, and it's a lot of boys.
Okay.
There's no basketball hoops or anything?
There could be, but it would be a movable one, not a fixed one, because that's not the only thing they would want to play. They might want to play hockey, might want to rollerblade.
Okay. Well, so let's see, we did have a motion, right?
Yeah, I'd just like to append that with any vertical elements that are gonna be part of this.
If there are any, they should be identified. Okay. Diane, that was your motion, correct?
Diane.
Sure, it was Diane's motion. All those in favor of Diane's motion to hold this for revisions, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Okay, very good. Thank you,
Thank you.
Elizabeth. And I'm so sorry for calling you Matthew. Deeply embarrassing. I'm not gonna sleep tonight. 8 Wall Street. Okay, we're to 8 Walsh. Replace door and window. Do we have somebody to rep this? Oh, do we have anyone to rep this? Yes?
Do you mean somebody online that, like, I submitted this?
Yeah, so you're representing this, correct?
Yes, yes.
Hey, could you give your name for the record, please?
Julie Wellner.
Very good, thank you. And now, do you want to just tell us what you would like to do here?
Oh, sure, yeah. So this is 8 Walsh Street, and we would like to add a blue stone patio at grade level on the south side of the house. And we would like to access it from the house by changing a window to a door and adding a landing that would be adjacent to the front porch and then step down to the patio.
Okay, first item, Connie will be sitting on this as your associate member.
Is this still new business? I can give it to
It's,
Joe for,
Uh,
if he wants to be able to.
sure. Joe, you good?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So Abby's off, so that means you have Connie and Joseph, both. My stuff is all upside down. How about that?
That's why I'm off it.
Yeah. And this would kind of need 2 applications, right?
Yes.
Because one is for a landscape element,
Yes.
which is the patio.
That was gonna be my comment.
Yeah, okay, so I suppose we can review all this together. I see you have this patio and you described how you were going to get to the patio by altering some of the architectural features on the building. But in reality, what you are going to need to do is have 2 separate applications, one for your landscape element and one for the stuff that's relating to the architecture. But we can review it all and give you our comments on this all together for now. Holly. your
Thank you,
comments.
Mr. Chair. So for the record, there is an HDC survey on file for this bungalow. It's a circa 1920. And we also have a new Form B that's been created with our survey efforts. And this is a circa 1913 Edward and Florence Coffin Thomas rental house, quiet corner, a craftsman bungalow. So this application is actually for 2 things that would require 2 COAs, one for the work to the structure itself and one for the proposed hardscaping. As far as the replacing the window and adding a door and extending the deck on the structure, the change of the south elevation window to a door is okay, but the style of door that's proposed as an 8 light with a kick panel is not appropriate for this craftsman bungalow. Maybe a simple craftsman door, but definitely not as proposed. Very atypical. The lattice detail also, as seen on the west under the steps, if you go to the west elevation, Adrian, thank you, should actually be extended. Sorry, we're upside down. Should actually be extended to retain that lattice section. Of course, along with the crossbucks detail. There is no detail or photo of the bluestone pavers that are proposed. Again, this is for a 24 by 36 patio area. That's pretty large. That's a lot of impervious area in a area that's in the AE7 flood zone. And if you recall our resilient Nantucket design guidelines, we also look at pervious surfaces versus impervious. We want to, eliminate some of these runoff concerns. So I would recommend looking at the recommendations in resilient Nantucket. I would also recommend reducing the size and incorporate existing material such as the front walkway steps, more of a organic feel versus a really hard cut, thick bluestone. So those are my comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Holly, thank you. Mickey.
Yes, this wasn't available on the view page, so I'm just commenting on by myself without the rest of the board. But I agree with what Holly just said about the door and the lattice and the size of the terrace, the patio. And I would also suggest it be more of a natural colored stone or more natural shaped stone rather than gridded blue stone. It's not appropriate for the area. And that's it. Thanks.
Okay, Mickey, thank you. All right, board members.
Can you repeat what the preference is for the door?
Well, I heard the word cottage door, which I'm not sure is exactly it, because a cottage door is mainly wood. Far less glass than what you're requesting, but listen, those were advisory comments. So let's hear what the board has to say, because I'm sure it's going to come up again. All right.
Okay.
All right. All right. Let's see. Connie, you're on this, right? Okay. Who would like to begin? Oh, was it Connie and Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And Abby's off. Yeah. Okay. Come on, some brave soul.
I have a question.
All right, Stephen.
Through Mr. Chair to the applicant. On the east elevation, the door, is that a 2-panel door or is that a glass door over a panel?
East elevation.
Glass.
Are you talking about the existing front door?
Yeah,
Um,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm looking. If there's a photograph that was included and it's a single pane of glass.
Yeah.
Yeah, with some paneled wood sections below it, but the glass starts probably at about 30 inches
Okay,
above the porch.
thank you.
Got it.
I would agree that the size of the patio is a little large. And I think that could be taken back at least on one end and still be very useful. The French door transitioned over to either match the front door, but with a taller glass so that the panel is as opposed to or as compared to the front door is shorter. I think it's towards the point someone was making about a panelized French door. And if we are agreeable, I think that we could work this into the in approval on the existing application with an adjustment in the fee. The hardscape and fenestration, just
Oh,
one application, but pay the fee for the parts.
for the
here.
other
Yeah.
application.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are my
Okay.
comments. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Who's next?
Can I ask you a question? What is bluestone flamed?
Flamed means that they put a torch over it, so it sort of spalls the top. So it's it's got a little bit of texture to it, so you don't slide on it when it's wet.
Well, are we doing the landscaping now or the?
I think that I'm inviting opinions on the whole package, even though the applicant at this point realizes that it really sort of needs to be two separate things.
Right.
But go ahead.
Well, I think the patio with its flamed pavers is too severe. The Wall Street is not so severe. That is, if they're using 24 by 36 and they're doing it the way they have the description, it should be looser and more natural stones. I don't think that particularly fits in with Wall Street. I don't know. It seems to me it needs some reconsideration. The front walk going up to the steps, that maybe the steps should not be so wide. The windows, I think, are strange, but I think they're already existing, right?
Yes.
So you can't do anything with that. So I think the skirt around the whole house is not what it should be. It should have pillars and it should be filled in something that's more associated down in that area. And it's sort of casually put on, particularly in the south elevation with those stairs coming down with the chimney. It looks like they're just sort of laid against the staircase. And I think it could use some minor revisions to sort of pull it together.
Okay. Thank you, Diane. Joseph, are you ready?
Sure. So I don't have any general issues with the window being replaced by a door or with the stair and details matching. That all seems fine. And the skirt underneath those new stairs matching the rest of the house seems fine. As far as doors go, I've just been looking at the existing elevations to see if we could take any clues from that about how to guide you on which door to go for. The only secondary door I can see is on the north elevation. There's a door that comes out to the driveway side. It looks like a 3-panel with glass. I don't know if you want to go to that page. It's page
Mhm.
7. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's the only other door on the house besides the front door. So I think if you matched that door, it might be a little bit wider. I don't think that there'd be any issues. I think at least there'd be a justification for it. And as far as the size of the patio goes, yeah, at first glance, it seems big and severe. I do like the idea of either it gets reduced or the material gets changed to match the front walk, which has grass growing through it. And I think when you look at it obliquely, it's going to soften it, even if you didn't change the size of it. So those are my comments.
Joe, thank you. Connie, your turn.
So I too would be in favor of a revision of the door, maybe the craftsman door that you had just talked about, and somehow reduce and soften that patio.
Okay, Connie, thank you. So there are some obvious things, like I'm pretty sure that you probably wanted to have the lattice continue under the porch. It's just not shown, but it should be.
Mhm.
I agree with the comment that's been made a few times about the size and the formality of the amount of terracing. And I also would like to see the type of bluestone. You know, there's bluestone, but there's a lot of other types of bluestone that have different color range. And I think, given the age of this building and the context, something a little bit less formal would be more appropriate. And as for the door, it would have been nice to see a photograph of the side elevation, the one that Joe referred to, because I can't tell whether that door has one pane of glass at the top or whether the first two or three might be panes of glass. I don't know. I can't really tell from this drawing, but something like that. I mean, clearly, didn't sound like anyone was completely happy with the door that's in place now. But taking your cue from the existing doors on the house would be a good idea. So I think maybe what we're looking for here is some minor revisions to both the landscape application and to the architectural one. Which next time we see it, they should be two separate applications, so we can, review them separately. Stephen.
Yeah, one thing before Brooke, the other thought I had is that stair, the new proposed, the deck could be rebated and that stair could be pushed further back and that could give you some more space on. I mean, the only purpose of that deck is it's not going to be a useful place, for instance, to set a chair or something. It's an outdoor hallway. So if you were to bring that back in order to bring the stairs back, that gives you a little bit more space if the patio is shortened up in either direction.
Here you go. Yep. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
What?
I worked on this building extensively and one of the things I just actually am in support of the applicant's first door decision, and I'm concerned about Joe's recommendation about using the kitchen door because that will create a very opaque view, both exterior,
So just
externally.
one pane of glass.
It's just, I think honestly, when you're inside, and I know you guys are mostly concerned with the outside, but when you're standing in the living room and being able to look towards the front door and then also towards the fireplace, I think that having those two doors match is probably going to feel more in keeping with the architecture of the building, either, both from the inside and from the outside. So that I just am wanting to speak in favor of the applicant's proposal for a door with more glass, though I agree with Steve, with Mr. Welch, that there shouldn't be any muttons and that it should resemble the front door. So that's all.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I just want to make a correction. Mr. Welch is my father.
Sorry.
And then just the idea with the doors, it can be derivative, but to look like the front door.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Brooke, we got to start calling you the sixth HDC member, like the fifth Beatle, there was the fifth Beatle. You could be the sixth HDC member.
Did you have a motion?
Yeah, you want to?
Can I say one thing about the door just for a second?
Yeah, sure. of
Just
course,
as a
go ahead.
suggestion.
Yeah.
Come on, Joe, you
To
love
the
my
applicant.
idea.
I do love your idea.
He does.
I would show a couple doors and let us,
I love that idea.
is in the past, I know it can be frustrating being on the other side of the table, especially when you've got a focused application like this, where the house is there, we're just talking about a door. And it's difficult to anticipate what it's going to look like. Sometimes just a simple drawing, option A, B, C, then you could reach consensus and not have to come back 3 times.
Like it.
Love
Okay, so should we move this application?
it. Motion for revisions.
There we go. Simple.
Minor.
Minor revisions, definitely.
And some material images.
Yes, correct. All those in favor of Stephen's motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Come on, folks. There we go.
Aye.
Hi.
All right, we got everybody. Any opposed? Very good. Okay, now we're gonna move to the sixth HTC person, board member? He has
I'd like to
he has
motion to approve
recuse
this.
from one.
All right, so this application is
Oh,
for,
sorry,
sorry.
sorry. I just want to get so are you back on, Abby?
Sure.
Okay, Abby's back on. That means it's going to be Carrie. All right. Full board plus Carrie.
Okay.
Okay, let's go.
All right, so originally, I had put in this application, a couple of years ago, and it showed like a stone patio platform with
Yeah.
about 2 inches of exposure of stone
Very
and
familiar.
yep. And so it's cycled through a couple of different applications. This is the version where we are only proposing the rear deck. It is made of wood. Its exposure above grade is about 8 inches. It's just you step down and then you step down to grade. And it is well screened. And I've even included some topo before and afters. And while there are some changes in general, the grade has been fairly consistently maintained from beginning to end. And I think that as a wood deck, it's about as benign as it gets. So I hope you agree. Thank you.
All right. Brooke, thank you. Holly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for the record, this is an infill within the old historic district, Quaker neighborhood of Mill Hill. I believe the photos of the mock-up with the planted vegetation is very helpful on what this is going to look, especially from down below, from where a lot of the historic structures are in the neighborhood. What helps is that the deck will not have any railings. It's just flat, flush on grade as minimum as possible, a low profile. And since it's low to the ground, obviously it's not required to have railings. Appreciate the topo before and after proposed work and after the structure has been built. I would, if the commission so inclined, recommend a condition that obviously the deck will not have railings if, maybe that's something that somebody down the road would want to do or whatever, but that it should not have railings and that vegetation is kept in perpetuity. Again, I think these photographs that have been provided really tell that it's going to be masked from view. So those are my comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right. Holly, thank you. Mickey.
Yeah, so I realize that this application is about a deck and not about the landscaping, but the deck is kind of driving the landscaping to some degree. And, when you look at those photographs, especially from down below, down from North Mill Street, it really looks very suburban, especially relative to what, this landscape used to look like, what North Mill Street used to look like years ago. That had natural landscape vegetation all along most of that side. So, to sort of mitigate the sort of suburban like look of this, I think it would be really helpful if they would almost naturalize that slope. That picture right there is perfect to show this. If they could really naturalize that slope with a lot of natural vegetation, sort of indigenous plants, kind of like what was there before, that would go a long way to really screening the deck and the very formal privet they've wrapped around the deck to hide it. So there's also, it looks like an electric meter pedestal down there that should be concealed. And just to sort of add to that, I know that, Brooke mentioned that the original plan showed the terrace down at grade level. I think that would be much more preferred than this elevated deck, because you're going to see it, at least the way it's shown now. You'll see the edge of the deck. You can already see it through the privet hedge, through the base of the plantings. So something at grade level would just plain disappear. So that's it. Thank you.
Mickey, thank you. Okay. Oh, is there anyone either on Zoom or in the room that wants to speak on this application? Okay. To the board. Thank you, Abby.
So that stage effect that we've been talking about,
of this, looking up from Angola, it's the naturalness, as Nikki referred to, that used to be on the hill. It has gotten formalized, and I think this is a problem that, I don't know, this is not where I would put a deck, if I were to be part of this, but, I just think we've lost the streetscape here, and I don't think the deck is helping, the situation. So I would sort of, I would just like to see more trees and more of what was there before. It just, we're going to get 2 more buildings below this, and we need some buffers. So, thank you.
Okay.
Mr.
Ab-
Chair,
Abby, Holly,
the owner's in the queue
would they like to
with
speak?
his hand raised, yes. sir.
Oh. Dawn? You may
Yes,
want,
can you hear me? Hello?
yes, yes.
Yeah. So just a couple comments relative. We have planted that whole side hill that Mickey mentioned with field grass. So over time, it'll look very much like it was before with the same kind of field grass down by the pony farm. So it will all be filled in with field grass. We're not going to cut it. It's just going to grow up and be natural. We're trying to make it natural there. Because we're cognizant of the fact that we didn't want to make it look like a shaved suburbanite area. We would make that all natural on the North Mill side of the house, all the way behind the house. We really want to respect the neighborhood, and if you'd like more plantings, we can look at putting more plantings along it. But I think we're just trying to say, let us use our backyard to the point that we don't have to sit on grass, but have an opportunity to use our backyard in the deck.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you very much. So you'll hear what the board has to say about that. So Abby, you've gone, who's next?
Well,
Thank you, Stephen.
okay, so I think we should be doing some horse trading here. First, I'll say, Mickey, I think you cribbed my notes. On this, can we go to well, this is a great elevation. So can we scroll down to this image? So I want to talk about the backyard, and I want to talk about the back side yard. And with these two, the backside yard and the backyard in mind, that area used to be bayberry and wide swaths of bayberry, viburnum, occasional wild lilac. And I think it's an opportunity here as a trade-off on the deck is to, with some modifications to the deck, which I'll get to in a minute. It's an opportunity to kind of replicate those plantings. I'm not suggesting it needs to look like virgin plantings today, but over the course of the next 5 to 10 years, it fills in, and it really takes on the nature that it used to have, which was that was a wooded hill. I think that would be helpful in a couple of regards. Can we go to the site plan, please? We'll look at the backyard. Oh, actually, this is great. I'm sorry. Don't remember you jumping around, but I forgot this image was there. I realize this is an as-built. Can we go, there was either one up or one down? One down. Yes. So this area is the backyard. And I think I think there's 2 things that need to be done here. One is the grade needs to be reduced. And I think it needs to be reduced as substantially as possible. Because on the backside, it's going to, and I'm not saying it's going to be 3 feet, but I think anything we can do to reduce that grade transitioning, you've got can we go to the site plan, please? Landscape plan. The one with the green stuff on it.
Oh, that's black and white.
Yeah, and then zoom in on the back. You had it, and zoom in on the back deck. 3 clicks up. And center. and then bring it down for the short. So the effect of the, can you bring it a little lower? The effect of the privet here is that you have a deck that's already elevated. So it's on an independent foundation, pier foundation. You've got a privet barrier. So visually, if this grade changes, there's no, it's not gonna make a difference sitting from the deck. It's not like you're walking down a set of stairs. It doesn't need to be accessible. As much as this grade from here to here can be shaved down on an angle to lower, then allow this grade to be lowered, I think is beneficial. And that would be hidden from basically here around along the property line by plantings with bayberry primarily, and by Burnham, and maybe again, the occasional lilac. The outcome would be that they get their deck. It doesn't look inappropriate as a final product, and we are able to move forward with potentially other work in the area in a way that is appropriate without, if they've got a foot less of grade to deal with on the backside, I think that helps the neighborhood. And it's within the power of this applicant to address that.
So you're looking to round the knuckle a little bit more?
Yeah.
Okay,
Or
yeah,
ski slope it
okay.
Stephen, you're finished for now?
for now.
Okay, Abby.
Does this, I just saw a picture, this deck already exists or?
No, it's, they mocked it up.
Oh,
It's not built yet.
No, it's there.
Well, the framing is there, I think.
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
Okay.
what we're. I'll go.
It was pre-existing. This is a holdover from a prior discussion months ago.
But can I ask you a question? Has that, the deck area and whatever been approved under this existing
No.
application?
Can I address that?
You can.
So the applicant determined earlier on that it had been, but it wasn't. It was in the drawing that we approved, but we didn't approve the hardscape drawing. So there was to be fair, there was a potential miscommunication that they're trying to rectify. And we took it off the last approval because it wasn't something we were going to accept with everything else that was happening.
Right,
And that now they brought it back to address.
to address what they have drawn now,
Yes. The deck.
okay? Without the dip stuff.
Yeah.
The other one had. But what if we said we didn't?
Look, hang on. We got too many people talking.
Okay.
Diane, have you finished?
Yeah, no, I just felt that there was, I didn't know whether it had been approved finally or not, because I think that the way it hangs out over there, hopefully the house below it will cover it, but it's not what you would usually find in a Quaker neighborhood, which this is supposed to be part of. And when we get into the lawn and stuff, I just wanted to check on the deck. I will say what I think about the lawn and stuff, but you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well,
Okay.
yeah.
I think it's imperative that the hill exists, whether the new house covers an area or not, that hill be planted the way it was before, which filled it in and you weren't aware of the things. Some things were tall, some things were thick. It's not just all grass. That's not what it was, and it's not what it should be. And we've gone around on this stuff. It's, I think, probably one of the more contentious areas downtown Boston area, because it is such a very distinctive Quaker place. And the pony field and all that, and the other houses in it, it's a very important area. And I think your hardscaping is as important as the house in areas like this. I think the hardscaping, and as you mentioned, and other ones saying that it's important to build, to plant the hill so it fits in. And I would definitely like to see that deck fit in. I don't think it's appropriate. We have other places than sticking out over a falling piece of land unless we prop it up.
Okay, Diane. Thank you. Carrie, I know you were.
Yeah,
opening.
so I think the deck is overall way too deep and large. I think it's unfortunate that the privet was planted because it's so close to the edge of the property that there is no property left to soften it by these homeowners. It's going down a hill. Yes, there's lots of perimeter privet around town, but on a steep pitch like this, it stands out very unnaturally. And the deck, as Mickey said, is driving that privet. But for me, mostly it's because now there's no place to soften behind that privet to the neighbor's property. It's all the onus of the neighbor to now deal with the issue that these people have created by this huge deck. It's not a backyard, it's a back sliver. And so to create a big habitable deck out there is sort of not appropriate in my mind. I personally think anything that's done there should be on the ground. And I remember seeing, I think there was a patio there originally, and I didn't think that was appropriate either. So I'm at a little bit of a quandary as to making this habitable space right over the edge and leaving it to the next guy to have to soften the look of that hedge way up there on the hill. Sorry, Brooke.
Okay. So I believe we've heard from Stephen, Carrie, Abby, and Diane, correct? You know, it's interesting. I appreciate the deck going down, stepping down several steps, because I think the last iteration had it one step down and it was just sticking way out of the ground. The thing that I actually find more objectionable than the deck is the privet. I think the privet looks very artificial. It's very out of character with the rest of the neighborhood. So I think that a more rural application of the indigenous vegetation Stephen referred to earlier, coupled with a more tapered off version of the mound that's there right now. And the deck appears to me on the low side looks to be about 8 inches out of the ground. So you have a lot of ability to cut before you need a railing. So I'm definitely in favor of this not having a railing. But I think that the real solution here is to surround the deck, which could be basically invisible, with indigenous vegetation as opposed to the very artificial feeling row of privet that I'm looking at right now. That's all I have to say. Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make one more comment.
Yeah, go.
Brooke, and not to be punitive, but I think that, you know, I'm looking at this deck and it is 16 feet in depth from the house to the rear lot line. If 2 feet of that were taken off, there'd be a considerable amount of room for indigenous plant material and a softening effect that would a softening effect created by plant materials that are layered from the house from the deck towards the neighboring property, which will be visible from the street as you go by. And the same can be said for the direction down towards the other street. So
So through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I may have preempted your suggestion. My client is willing to pull back 2 feet and do exactly that.
So 2 feet severely taper the grade and plant the hell out of that. in a
With indigenous,
naturalistic
yeah,
way.
yep,
Okay, technical landscaping term there.
yes,
the hell out of
yeah, indigenous the heck out of it.
Okay, I was just wanted to make sure I got that out there.
Can we craft a motion on this one?
That was my motion
Okay.
through staff.
Say it again.
2 feet out of the depth of the deck.
Move the, remove the privet. Privet could be incorporated in indigenous plant material, to be clear, but it can't,
Right.
not a formal.
But not as a dominant
Yeah,
force.
not even an alternating row doesn't do it.
Yeah.
So cut the deck back 2 feet towards the house. Plant, taper the grade as severely as possible without having erosion problems. And planting indigenous plant materials, bayberry, primarily a bayberry, maybe some inkberry, Arrowwood viburnum, and some lilac. Maybe groupings as they naturally would.
Right.
You've got a landscape architect, they can work it out.
So you're going to have the
Really
deck
screen
is
it.
now proposed to 16 feet by 33.
14, so then they can.
We're
deep-
chopping off 2 feet.
Yeah, it's
worth.
pulled,
2
being
feet,
pulled
and
away
then
from
they can
the,
take the grade right now, that 2 feet. And instead of having to be flat, and then this other part that comes down slowly, they can taper that off.
Right.
So that helps limit the issue with the next house down the hill. But that area also gets expanded by 2 feet to plant indigenous plant material.
Right.
Right.
Does that,
So we will have some natural planting. up
yeah, and that plant material will go around the side yard. Basically from this area. So basically, we're gonna lose 2 feet here. And then this whole area could be naturalized planting
Right,
around here and splashing down the hill like it used to.
right. Not edge like.
Privet's gonna go
As a row.
as a row.
They want to use, privet, scrub privet as part of the organic.
So that'll be the motion for
Very-
exhibit A. And if I get a
Yeah,
copy, I'll mark it up.
Exhibit A would be good.
Yeah.
All right, so if everyone understands that
Do you
motion,
want-
hopefully
do
do,
you want
I'm
amend
gonna
for
put it to a vote.
Third,
All those in
three?
favor of Stephen's motion, which by the way is a through staff motion, say aye. Aye,
Terry has
uh,
aye.
Carrie,
No.
you're out. Abby's out, not in. Okay, so the motion does carry, 3 in favor, 2 opposed.
thank you.
Okay. All right, next 44 Skyline.
Brooke, is that deck currently 14 feet?
No,
Did we just agree to have it be what it was?
No, it's currently 16. I measured it and
Okay,
it's,
I'm
no, it's
sorry.
okay. It's fair question.
Okay. Hi, Nancy.
Hi there. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and all the board members. Nice to see you.
In real life or?
Oh, Connie, this one's to you. Okay, Connie, you're on this, okay? All right. Nancy,
Okay,
regular board plus Connie.
okay.
Okay.
I'm here tonight to represent the house move from 70 Washington Street to 44 Skyline Drive.
Right.
And the house move this is land bank property now. And they are very happy to think it's going to be recreated in another place so they can move ahead with their plans. The place that is going to has been kind of a cloud, I think, but I hope it's lifted. There's open space, there's nothing, no materials on the property, and it will be definitely a residential area.
Okay. Thank you. Now I know that there's been some letters written, and there are attachments, on this. Is there anybody else that wants to speak on this before I turn it over to the board?
And staff.
You want
Me.
to, you want to speak? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the record, I just wanted to remind the commission that this is a non-contributing structure, although it is in the OHD now, built in 2002. And the commission did approve for a move off back in October of last year. But I wanted to really emphasize that there are abutters with concerns. But at the end of the day, from obviously a sustainability perspective, I'm happy to see this out of a landfill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Now, I want to ask this again. Is there anybody want to on Zoom or otherwise that wants to speak on this? Okay. Yes,
I'm curious.
yes, please.
This is leaving Washington?
Correct.
And is this part of the sort of the open harbor?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what's happening.
Yeah. And
It's
they
the
want-
land bank is getting all these parcels and they're slowly removing the buildings and moving them elsewhere. That's what
They're-
this is about.
Putting the heat on this one, so they want to do it this fall.
Does anyone want to start?
Can I ask a question also?
Yeah, of course you can.
So this is just going to be moved to this site to just sit there?
No, it will be totally redone. And it will, whether it gets sold in the future or if it's left for rental, but it's definitely got a purpose to be finished.
Well, let me make sure that this, I think, Connie, did you mean, is it being moved there temporarily so that it can move some other place? And I think the
No,
answer to that is no, it's
no,
actually going
no.
on a foundation, right?
It's going to
Oh,
live
okay.
at 44.
So this would be its home. This is the home.
Okay, because some of
Yeah.
the other information was questioning like a septic system or, town sewer, all that, and I didn't know if that was part of all that.
Well, I'm glad you straightened it out because it's going to be a place for living. It's going to be definitely residential
Okay,
as per the zoning, and
Okay.
there should not be any more problems.
You're gonna, you're off of this. Okay. Joe, can you sit in on this? Sure. All right. Steven's off. Connie and Joe are both off. All right. Who would like to begin?
Forward.
Yes.
I think it's a great.
Okay,
You too.
there we go.
Yeah, I have one question. Are you,
Sure.
it doesn't look like there are any alterations that are being planned. It's moving as is.
It's moving as is, and I'm sure I'll be back with other things as it comes along.
Okay. I have no problem with it.
Okay, Connie,
no, me neither.
looks like we have
So
lift
make
off
a
kids.
motion to approve.
That sounds great. Diane has made a motion to approve this as submitted. All those in favor of Diane's motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? There we go.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you all.
We'll see you later.
Is this the last one? I can, somebody can sit on this one.
Actually, it's a Carrie now. So,
Oh, is it Carrie?
you're off, Abby,
I'll just,
because you are on some of the old business. Oh,
All right, so who do I have left then?
okay, so here's your board. Diane.
Yep.
Ray.
Yep.
Stephen, are you,
Yeah, I'm good.
Yep.
you're on?
Yeah.
Okay, Diane. Ray.
Carrie.
Stephen, Carrie. Oh, one short, so Connie, back to you again, okay?
Okay, so
All right.
Carrie's off.
Here we go. Chuck Hollow, new dwelling.
Well, the only vacant lots left in that particular section on that side of the street. It's under some ZBA restrictions. It's a single family dwelling. It's under a ZBA restriction. You can only have one dwelling on this lot as part of a variance grant a couple of months ago. The house is 175 feet off of Chuck Hollow, and as anybody who's driven through and gotten lost in Tom Nevers East, most of the houses are set way back off the road. Nobody's up on the road. There's a lot of foliage in front of it. They're going to maintain that buffer to the street. If you go down further in your package, you'll see the pictures from the street that I took, and you'll see some of the area houses that are around it, which are about the same size.
And we, unlike the rest of them who are white, we have all natural trim, black windows. We do have barn board, but horizontal barn board on the shiplap, basically on the natural to weather clapboard, if you want to go there, on the first floor. And there are 2 other barns within close proximity that also have barn board, but some are barn board, some are horizontal, natural to weather clapboard. One is painted white, actually, down the street. Not much else to say about it, except that it's a gambrel style. A lot of them do have roof walks out there because you can see some water. And it should be relatively invisible once it goes up, considering how far off the street it is. It's actually farther off the street than some of the other ones on Chuck Hollow and Green Hollow. I'm here to answer any questions if you'd like to ask any.
Okay, Linda, thanks.
It's pretty straightforward.
All right. Is there anybody other than Linda who wants to speak on this before I turn it over to the board?
The owners are here as well as the designer.
Okay, they're on Zoom.
No, they're sitting
Oh,
right here.
Oh.
They came in for this. They're not on Zoom.
Wow.
They live here year round.
Okay.
They live here year round, so they're here already anyway.
Okay, very good. So, did you guys want to say anything? Okay,
Unless you got any questions.
okay.
As I said, it's a fairly straightforward application.
All right, thanks. Board members,
I'll go,
thank you,
because
Karen.
I looked at it before as well. I think the inspiration barn photo that is in the bottom is great, but I think this is actually 3 stories tall. That building is like 1.5 stories tall. This is more like 2.5. So I think the addition of that extra level makes this one seem really tall and ill proportioned. I think if the whole 3rd floor were gone and the roof came down, it would be more successful. But the fact that there's this middle level throws the whole gambrel off. I think the roof walk is rendered incorrectly with 5 posts on the long side and 4 on the short side is incorrect. I think the porches sort of ending short on the end elevations are awkward. I get that this is Tom Nevers and there's a lot of brush, but it's not very tall brush, so I think the whole top level and a half will be visible. I think one type of siding on an elevation would be good rather than mixing the 2. I'm not adverse to barn board at all, but I think the mix of the 2 makes it feel awkward and sort of suburban rather than barn-like. I'd love to see a more pure barn form rather than all these pieces. And the 3-story gambrel doesn't really work. And then this type of dormer doesn't work on it either. I think shed dormers work better on gambrels. That's it. Does 175 feet off the road help? Well, I would still think you'd want to,
hang
you
on.
know.
Linda,
more
you're gonna let the board members talk,
Okay.
right?
It's still not 29 feet tall, I believe,
It's 30 feet high.
30 feet, just under.
Okay, let's see. Harry, thank you. Who's next?
Well, why did Steve go?
I can
go. All right.
I think the overall massing is not inappropriate. I think tinkering with some of the dormer roofs and presentation of the gambrel. Maybe the eave height over the door on the side, and so lowering that shed roof We'll go to the next elevation.
Steve, did you say it was okay, the
I think the
massing?
I think that for me, there's too many different architectural styles. So I think if some of this were, I think if the massing, if the details were simplified, the massing could be approvable.
Okay.
But the gambrel on a 3-story is probably not like a strong solution oriented roof outline. And then maybe if it went to a gable, the other roof pitches will work more easily because you're getting this hipped roof, dormers, kind of contrasting and conflicting with the gambrel. And if you eliminate the gambrel, that helps address some of the height while not eliminating the 3rd floor. And at the same time, it, dormers and play whatever, it makes the other roof forms more appropriate. I think it just needs to be looked at from that lens as opposed to a complete redo for sure. Okay.
But leave the gambrel, but just tinker with it?
Well, I think the gambrel is probably with the 3rd floor gonna give you some problems amongst a vote. Just, I mean.
A vote? So you said a vote?
But the height
Well,
is
okay.
saying 3rd floor.
Okay, stop. Everybody stop.
Yeah, I know
Stop.
what you're saying.
Stop,
I know what you're saying.
stop.
So I actually have the floor.
I know.
I appreciate the comment that the idea is that the gambrel creates the perception of the 3rd floor. And that's gonna be, I think, that's something you're not gonna have support for. So if you can adjust that roof pitch, to simplify that roof form, it's gonna make addressing the other elements easier to address. And it addresses the primary issue, which is the perception of a 3rd floor. You got that?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Thank you, Stephen.
I'll go.
Diane,
I think it's, starting with the chimney and the 2 dormers on the side, it is the west elevation. It's, and then the windows on the 2nd floor, over on the other side. I think the dormers should go and come down onto the 2nd floor and the chimneys would stay where it is. But as has been mentioned by both Carrie and Steve, it's the 2nd, 3rd floor. It should go. It is. It changes the whole concept, architectural concept sort of the building. The roof walk should have longer panels in it. It shouldn't be 4 small panels. It should be wider ones, and on the side that maybe should only be 2. It looks sort of picayune with broken down to that much. I don't mind the gambrel. I think that fits in. Well, it seems to be to me the east elevation and the west elevation that I have a problem with. And somehow that could come out. The windows on the 1st floor of the east elevation on the right-hand side should be like 3 as on the other side and not the mold. And that's just it to begin with. Thank you.
Diane, thank you. Connie,
Yeah, I was gonna say something similar. There just seems like there's too much going on and there's no symmetry. There's nothing that's kind of aligned and looking like symmetrical, like the 3 windows here on what elevation? On the east elevation. They just kind of nice windows, but there's kind of thrown in there. They're kind of off center. I just think kind of echoing what everyone's saying. It just seems like there's too many styles. There's not enough symmetry. It does look like it's a 3-story house with that gambrel the way it is, if that could come down. And maybe the roof block too.
Connie?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Connie. I agree with everything that Carrie said initially. The gambrel is really not. I don't feel it's the appropriate roof form. This is definitely reading as a well, it's not reading as a 3-story building. It is a 3-story building as seen from the outside. If it were gables, that would, I think, make it less voluminous. The roof ridge being at exactly 50 feet is, I find, a little troubling. The roof walk as rendered, everyone has commented on that. It's just not not the proper spacing for the posts, etc. I also don't like the combination of materials like the natural clapboard and the shingle. The 7 and 12 roof pitch that goes down to this single story portion should be a less steep roof pitch. Those are my initial comments, but I think the gambrel is the gambrel at 30 feet is the main issue here, and the fact that it's reading as 3 stories. What do you think, folks?
Let's hold for revisions.
That sounds good to me.
I'll make a motion to-
Okay, Diane has made a motion to hold for revisions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're on to old business.
Studio Park with us?
Yeah, I don't know. You have to find out. Is James on?
Okay, so James, we're gonna have you guys, we got 11 Alliance Ave. It's myself, Abby, Diane, Val is not here. Connie as the alternate is activated, and Carrie. You got the second dwelling up first. All right, James, so when you see the site plan, you can kind of walk us through,
Sure. Can I ask a
quick reminder where we were and then try and walk through it quickly.
certainly, and just for clarification, Val's not here, so I just have 4 today. Is that
No,
correct?
Connie was your alternate.
Okay.
Activated.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So previously we came to the table with 3 applications. They're all relative to one another, which we'll see in the supplemental information that we'll go through as per the request of the board. The first project that we're looking at right now is the cottage or second dwelling, which there were architectural comments, but also site-related comments that the board had requested additional information, site sections, a streetscape, et cetera, which is a secondary package that goes with all of these. Right now, what you're looking at is the architectural focused application for the cottage itself, which you can see is in the lower right-hand corner of that site plan. What you see right now in front of you, the proposed is the upper elevation. The lower was the previously reviewed. So this is about 730 square feet. It's not a large structure. A lot of the initial comments that were made had a lot to do with ganged windows, too many of them, the second story porch off the rear, which we have removed, and also just that it was kind of in general a little boxy. So what we've done is we made substantial changes to all the windows, unganged every window. We've added a front porch and a side porch wrapping around, additionally adding a door to the northern elevation, so there's more of a mudroom entry on the side, and removed the second story porch off the rear. This site is sloping, as we'll see from the site plan and from on all the other portions. So if you go to the next elevation sheet, you'll see that the site drops off in the rear. Again, the upper 2 elevations are the proposed and the previous are below. So on the southern elevation, we removed all the ganged windows, split those up, and similar thing on the rear. Previously, there was a second story deck. We removed that deck, so we removed that door, unganged all the windows, and added a covered porch off the rear. And those were the changes related to this application.
Thank you, James. Are there questions on, I know this is kind of dense, the cross sections and whatnot, so if we've got questions. This is a good time to have them addressed. Noting, I'm sure everyone previewed this application. Can you bring up the perspective drawings that show the grade contours and in particular sheet C001?
It's the next PDF over
And we're looking at
in
the
your tabs.
upper left. No. Big file, James.
It's a lot of information.
So James, just for clarification for the commissioners, the dwelling we're looking at, I'm not sure.
Upper left, upper
It's
left
upper
right
left.
now.
And
Correct.
on the drawing to the right of that, it's the structure on the left or the structure on the, it's the structure.
Structure on the left. So the cottage is on top, and then we step down to the garage, and then we kind of step to the overall street view as per your request.
Okay.
So what you're looking at in the 3D image on the left, that's essentially an axonometric from the rear yard, so that you can see what's happening where the site falls off. The longer image on the right, cottage view 1, is essentially the streetscape. So that's more of the public way. What you see on the left, you can't really access, but as per your request, we are showing it in a 3-dimensional form.
Okay, so just to restate what you stated, the image on the far left is actually not viewable from the street. It
Correct.
is
You can see
also towards the rear of the lot and.
correct.
Okay. Who would like to go? So this is the rear of this and the street is here.
Yeah, the big gray swath that you see is a Lion's Lane. So essentially, the upper 2 images are focused on the cottage. The next 2 images down are focused on the garage. And then 2 below that is the streetscape as a whole.
Okay. We're percolating here, James.
Sure.
James, how far is the structure approximately from the street?
46, 47 feet, I believe.
Okay.
Well, I can go.
Carries up.
I appreciate the changes. I do see that it got taller because of the windows in the dormers. You wanted to align the cross, whatever the heck's. cross
Yeah,
bars.
the eave was a little off. Sorry.
Yeah.
So that's why I got a little taller.
So I feel like the chopped off porch is distracting from the rest of the balance of the building. I get that, the 2 windows on the left are 2 and there's 1 on the right, but to me that porch should run all the way across and just ground the entire thing instead of cut it in half, in thirds, 2/3. And then the east and west elevations, the second floor windows, I really feel like there should be 2 up there on each end because there's so much shingle around it. It makes it feel very bulky. And I think the 2 windows would benefit. I appreciate you're getting rid of the second floor deck and having a porch roof instead. I think that helps ground it as well. And those are my comments.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. Who's next?
I'll go.
Abby?
I think
Looking at this whole side together, I think this is, on the minor side, in that it has been to the left and down. But I do love Carrie's idea of, I'm not sure if this is what it was, but instead of having a sawed off, overhang porch, I would combine those with a hip and go around the corner. To sort of just weigh it down, and I think it would sit nicely
So those are my only comments.
Okay, thank you. Diane, you want to go?
Yeah, I appreciate what you've done. I do think the porch would be better coming around. I don't know whether I think upon the west elevation up in that dormer, there are a lot of windows. I was thinking maybe 4 rather than 5. It just makes that dormer and the roof very sort of busy. Yeah, busy. And I think that's about it on what I was thinking of.
Thank you. Connie?
Yes, I agree that those 5 windows do make it look very busy. I would be in favor of 4. I appreciate the removal of that second floor balcony and would like to see that overhang or porch go, span the entire east elevation, I think it was, or yes, I lost it.
Through the chair, the street side is what everybody's
Yeah.
correct. Okay.
Hold on there. James, we're technical difficulties.
Computer difficulties. That's all.
Okay. So James, my theme on these second accessory structures is going to be to make them decrease their presence with respect to or as measured against the main structure. And I don't disagree with the idea of extending that porch roof along the east elevation, i.e. The street side Alliance Lane. I think for me, the idea here is to slide this down the slope so that you're going to go from a 24-foot contour line to at least 2 feet, which, isn't sliding it down the slope much. You're talking about less than 5 feet to a 20 or a 21-foot elevation at your high point. And I think that will address any concerns I have. So for me, it's the extend the roof and slide this towards the rear, toward the west, 4 or 5 feet.
So you're, just for clarification, through the chair
Go
or
ahead,
to the
James.
chair. So you're suggesting moving the structure back or lowering the structure grade wise or both?
Moving it back, which relative to grade will lower it.
Gotcha. Would we be, can I ask a question just for
Yeah, go ahead.
before we start moving
I'm
things
not the
from my
super
perspective?
guy.
We are restricted in the rear, which is one of the reasons why I don't extend the porch all the way across the rear. Would you be opposed to slightly moving it north as well so that I could move it back without running into restrictions?
No,
If you
I'm not adverse to that. I can't speak for everyone else, but I would like to clarify for the benefit of the commissioners. What's your cutoff line? I thought it was the second red line. Is it the blue line?
The blue line for structure, that's the 50 foot.
No, quick, get that
So-
in before Concom changes the regulations.
I
Yeah,
noted.
so,
Well,
yeah.
this is
so I guess-
approved, but keep going. Sorry.
Okay, James is basically saying he's not adverse to sliding it down the slope, but he needs to slide it a little closer to the house.
Yeah, I would go up and back so that I could accommodate those heights. And I think extending the porch across the front face is a great idea. No issues with that.
Okay, does anyone do we feel like do we need more discussion or do we want to move it along? Okay,
Motion to move the structure east. I guess it is. The back is east.
yeah, west and north.
West and north, well, within the Concom line. And to extend the porch to the far left. No,
East elevation porch to the far left.
Yeah.
And Abby, move to the west and the north approximately 4 feet each direction.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. All right, so on Abby's motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously.
Thank
Abby,
you.
would you mind writing that on your? Thank you so much. Okay, James, we're gonna move to the garage.
Sounds good. When that opens up, I'll fire away.
Can we actually go to the site plan? I just want to orient everybody and then we can jump to the elevations. And zoom in on the, the upper right of the. Yeah, so guys, just to make sure we're all on the same page, it's the garage, of course, and the upper right corner adjacent to the main dwelling.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, James, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. So again, speaking to the comments architecturally that were done previously, this was a salt box previously in its form. And a lot of the comments were made was that it was a little massive and maybe didn't speak to the rest of the buildings. So what we did was we pulled the massing down, reduced the second story, and added a element of a single story that wraps around, cutting it off and also doing similarly to what we just did to the cottage and what we just discussed. So when you hit the street view, essentially you end up, you have receding first floor planes on all three structures, including the main dwelling, which isn't before us right now. But essentially everything recedes back now rather than having that kind of, I guess, at this point, abrupt salt box shape. So what you can see on those two elevations, the upper left-hand corner, oops, sorry. The upper left-hand corner is actually faces inward. And the street view is actually the elevation east there. So previously, when you look down below, there's a salt box, and up above now it's a slightly more traditional shed dormer with a shed first floor story element. So now the structure feels further back from the street, although its present location hasn't changed, but the massing has changed substantially on the second floor. And if you go to the other elevations, the changes are reflected there as well. So previously there was a singular element facing the north, and now you can see it's a smaller dormer with a double door rather than a door and two windows before. It also, since it was a salt box, the porch had somewhat of a negative massing to it. Now that it is a shed roof with a more traditional porch, which also matches the main house, or balcony, not porch, sorry. It's more in keeping with the main house. And the west elevation, which is in between the house and the public way, is just addressing those changes as well, but can't really be viewed as much. So yeah, so those were the changes that were made for this structure, and I think it's for the better.
Okay, thanks, James.
Sure.
Carrie, did you want to start?
Sure. I totally appreciate these changes. I think on the north elevation, because I think that might be somewhat visible as you're driving up the street. Am I correct?
It is, yes.
Yeah, I think the dormer and the second floor deck and proportions and the doors in that dormer should be a little different. I think the second floor deck could get a little bigger, and the doors not be double doors, but maybe go back to a single door with two windows, but not so spread apart as in your first rendition.
Mhm.
But just to get the proportions a little better, so there's not so much wall on either side of the doors in the dormer. If you
Too
catch
much
my
shingle.
drift.
Sorry.
Too much
Little-
shingle, yeah, so
Yeah.
spread out this window and single windows flanking single door. And then the second floor deck will get a little bit bigger to accommodate those, I think.
Okay, anything else?
That's it. I really appreciate the massing change.
Okay,
Thank you.
nice, thank you, Con.
I'll go,
Diane?
because I agree with Carrie, if you could I think it is good with doors separated, filling up that door a little better.
Okay. Abby?
Yeah, my only concern, is that this garage sort of overlaps the front of the house, and I wish it didn't have to be that big. I can see that blue line again, and I see why it goes right to the edge there, but I wish it were a smaller garage and we could see more of the view of your lovely design of the main house. So that's my only objection, is that I just think it's too big right there. Looks a little squished in.
Okay, thank you, Abby. Connie?
I really don't have anything else to add. I do like the suggestion with the dormer. But other than that, it looks good.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So, James, I'm on board with the dormer. I agree with Abby, and I think at minimum, you know, what I would prefer, and I don't think you've got room in your site plan, is, and contrary to conventional logic, is to actually move this closer to the road and put the two cars towards the house, because it separates those masses, I think, in a reasonable way, because that garage is so close to the house, it appears to be an extension of it. If that can't be done, I think we need to take at least 9 inches out of the height of this. By lowering top plates as opposed to changing roof pitches.
I can certainly lower the second floor 9 inches. Sadly, I cannot move it to the street because we are up against setback, which is why the parking is proposed at that location. And I do think I agree with Carrie's comments and everybody's comments that it's a little shingle heavy on the dormer side, and maybe what was previously in the drawing is better.
Okay.
So sorry, that's.
Do you want to make a motion?
Um,
Or do you want to hold?
no,
Bah, I don't think that's a motion.
I could try a motion.
Okay, let's try it.
Motion to approve with the second floor deck extended by, I think, 3 feet will do it. And the fenestration in the dormer, single door, flanking windows, not quite as much in between as your first one, maybe 8 inches of shingle between, not so much. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
How about an exhibit A?
Exhibit A, I'll draw it out and put on. the-
Okay, but for the sake of discussion, the motion, exhibit A includes what Carrie just said, which is what she previously said. And that includes the 9-inch reduction in height.
9-inch reduction in height, yes, thank you.
Does anyone have any questions on the motion? Okay.
I just want to say I'm not in favor because of the siding on the site.
Yeah.
No.
So on Carrie's motion, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? One.
I
Yeah.
am close to where it is.
I am too, but I don't think they have a choice, so I'm gonna go ahead with the, yeah, you don't have to, but I'm gonna. So 3-2. I wish it wasn't there. Can we move the house back, James?
No.
Sure.
Yeah, it's partially in existence. And also it's.
No need to go on. No need to go
Thank
on.
you.
You got a
Okay.
3-2.
I'll take it.
You, can we get the application for Carrie to mark up as an exhibit A too? And, we're gonna now move on to the cabana.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to make a statement about staff approvals and that?
It should say, yes, through staff or,
Right, but that you need the minutes to submit the staff approval.
no, we don't need to say that. It's part of the checklist.
Okay, I just feel like that needs to be reiterated a lot.
Yeah,
If I may,
staff.
the
does.
chair, it is posted on the website that we need minutes for staff
know.
approvals and.
Not
for
everybody
business
sees
decisions.
it, so it's kind of good to say it over and over again.
Thank you.
You, there's no reason you can't say it. but it's not.
And they've never got.
Okay, James,
Yes,
before we lose the room, I want to keep rolling here.
sure.
Have the
So, yeah, so the cabana, which is past the tennis court, right where their cursor was, Esme. Essentially, this is proposed as a cabana changing area and as well also covered patio. The previous comments that were made were also relative to the site and just understanding what the site was relative to things. So we haven't proposed any substantial changes to the cabana at this time. But what we did was provide the supplemental information to show you how it is actually perceived at 170 feet away from the site. So the supplemental package that was attached, the previous where we saw the street view, we were asking to see how this would be seen from the view from the road. So the second PDF might be more helpful. Due to the fact that the tennis court is sunken and this is up against that portion, it appears on the what's considered the west elevation that it's very tall, but in all actuality, that really can't be perceived from the public because it falls off. Not to mention it's extremely heavily planted, which you can see from the site plan and from the streetscapes, which are in the supplemental package. So that's essentially it.
Who would like to go?
I would say that, like, two of the elevations, I have no problem, but going off the back, the 9-foot stone is so on Nantucket, I can't digest that. You know, the other elevations look so benign, but this is sort of out of the ordinary of Nantucket, so I just think, you know, I understand you're under the confines of the topography here, but you know, nobody said you had to have like 4 structures on this site. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Abby. Diane?
I was just trying to locate that cabana, the pool and all that stuff. It's just so busy there that it's, I don't know, I would like to see the cabana either smaller or something rather. There's no space before the property falls off a lot. They couldn't cram anything else in there. So I'd like to see it smaller. So it has some breathing room around it. I don't know how it's got to be able to be made smaller. But otherwise they're gonna tippy toe. And I don't know whether it's why it's up so high, except to get it up above the existing buildings and courts around it. I would like to see it sort of made smaller and fit in a little better.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Carrie?
I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around kind of the cabana on this wall, because it's reminiscent of what happened on Duke's Road, and that is, as Abby said, so not Nantucket. I want to see the cabana sink to the level of the wall, but then it would just be open to the tennis court, and then you don't have a pool cabana. So it's kind of like, how do you solve that problem? I don't know how you do it.
I got an idea.
Right.
I'll wait.
I don't know.
Maybe we should turn it over to him, let him figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carrie or Connie?
Yeah, I'm not sure what to say about this cabana, either. It's just shoehorned in there and on a cliff, yeah.
Okay. All right, James, I'm not in disagreement. I think the solution in my mind is to lower this. It's gonna be reminiscent of the roof plane on Pine Street that's a couple of feet above the road. Perhaps you have a stairway down from the courts, either through the building or on the outside of the building. And then the ultimate result is that you're splitting the grade between you're lowering the grade at the base of the cabana. And then that is allowing you, let's keep in mind that the pool is that 9-foot wall you're seeing. So that's allowing you to lower the pool.
That's the other way
that-
around. Sorry to interrupt.
I'm looking at, can we look at sheet A100? Yeah, I'm more than willing to be some elucidation here. So I'm looking at the lower left.
The lower left of A100, that's the tennis court side. So that lower left-hand portion, the pool is on the higher side, the elevation above it. So
James, hold on a second.
Sorry.
I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I just want to try and pin down some information here. On the lower left, number 5.
Mhm.
So it's the tennis east elevation. So the tennis surface is at the base of that tall wall.
That is correct.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the other way around. So my point is then even more so is just to lower this whole thing.
I don't know why that's the other one.
The next.
Oh, and this is it's in a cul- like a ditch.
Shall we call or?
Yeah, so James, I think you get the point, the height, work out, I think a cross section. That shows the court, the cabana and the pool. And as currently proposed, and I think you're gonna need a reduction in order to get supports on this.
So just to speak to that, so the section in the supplemental shows the relationship. I think it's the second PDF that came with everything shows the site section. So one page up from that page, C002. There you go. If you look in the middle elevation or the middle section, you can see the cabana on the left and you can see the sunken tennis court. And so essentially the cabana, I don't want to say it's a grade plus or minus is at 27. The cabana is a couple feet down from general grade, and then the tennis court is approximately 8 feet down from that. So that's why that one wall appears very tall in that section. However, it's below the grade and really cannot be perceived.
Okay, James, I think I'm reading you and I appreciate the clarification. It was helpful for my understanding. I think we're going to hold for revisions, and it would behoove you to bring back some additional perspectives that show the visibility of the concern we have. Keeping in mind, we'd like you to lower the cabana overall height and or shift the location, the solution's up to you. But if you can demonstrate the lack of visibility, that's something we're presenting, and it's something that, we would consider, but I'm not suggesting it's going to sway anyone, but I think it's worth your while to present. So a motion for
I make that motion.
revisions and additional
Yes.
imagery. Okay.
Yes.
All in favor of Diane's motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries.
I appreciate
Okay.
it. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Have a good night.
Ray has exited stage left. We're gonna go to 2 North Mill Street with the Wallaba roof shingles. 54 Cliff has them. They look fine. The wood looks weird when you look at the sample. But once it starts to weather, and 54 Cliff is still, hasn't even done its final inspection yet, and it looks totally fine. Yeah,
It's on that.
so it'll be a cedar look shingle roof.
Is that the?
Cliff was on our view list of money. 54 Cliff was on our view list. Okay, why don't you go ahead? Okay, fair enough. We appreciate that. Who would like to go?
I'll go.
Okay.
I listened to it yesterday. It's a good wood. We pulled it apart and looked whether there was an unusual gap between the shingles and everything. It has to grow and shrink as wood does, so that was decided. The color of it was a little different now, but not horrendously wrong. And they had some that had been weathered a little bit, and it seemed to be falling into space with the weather and weathering. And it was proposed maybe that it's already on one building up there, and this seemed to fit in and not ostentatious even, but they considered the coloring of it to be okay.
The one that was on the gift. That one is, I believe, 2 months being in place, and then there's 6 months being placed, and the one on Wall Street is 12 months.
And also, there's not an image of 54 Cliff, but that's one of them.
And Mr. Chair, I also had comments on the view.
Okay, 1 second. I just want to back up and establish. So it's myself, Diane, Abby, Val is not here, Ray is not here. It'll be Connie and Joe. And Holly, why don't you go?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for the record, this is roof type is proposed for an 1820 lean-to built for Benjamin Hussey. It's a 1.3 story with a newer ridge chimney, 3-bay facade, and with an addition and alteration at the rear. Again, the structure is historic in the old historic district in a Quaker neighborhood. Examples that were shown, while appreciative, everything on Cliff Road, Tristram's, as well as Walsh are all out of the old historic district. Wall Street examples didn't seem to be correct, at least the numbering. I know we just reviewed 8 Wall Street tonight, and the photo that's provided is not that bungalow. So I just wanted to correct that for the record. This would be a precedent setting if the commission is so inclined to approve for a 200+ year old structure within the old historic district. And I just really want to stress that, because the ones that have been approved, which are shown, are for the most part either infills or less of a historic structure, more on contributing, mid-century structure. So I think that's important, and all located outside of the OHD. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Holly. And is there any butters or anyone from the public? Mickey, okay, go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I mean, basically what Holly said, this is a pretty important site and structure. It's very old. We couldn't really tell from the photographs. You really have to see this in person, which hopefully you all have done. You want to get this one right, because it's going to set a precedent. It should look like an old house. And it's just too difficult to tell from the pictures. So we really couldn't comment that clearly on it. So that's it.
Okay. Before we move on, I want to get some clarification because I'm a little confused. I understand Holly's comments with respect to the age. Mickey seems to be in terms of not having clarity what this will look like. I can't think of a more historic roof treatment than wood shingles, and this as opposed to asphalt. 3 tableau no longer available. We'd be looking at architectural. which seems very inappropriate to me. But so then it comes down to if wood is historic, what's the kind of hitching point or issue revolving around? And I think it's the initial color, but the record shows if you look at these in the field, that these weather like a cedar shingle. So I just want to, that's a long way of saying, explaining why I don't understand what the concern is.
Stephen, I'm not saying we have a concern. I'm just saying that it's hard to tell from the photographs. I agree. I think wood is very appropriate. If they look a lot like red cedar shingles when they're weathered, that's probably fine.
Okay.
But I just couldn't tell from the pictures.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to make sure we were all clear because that's not how I was reading it. Diane spoke, who would like to go next? Joe?
Yeah, I'm convinced that it's not going to be noticeable as something that's distinctly different than a weathered red cedar roof. And the side, actually both of the roof planes of this structure, which are sort of long and low and sweeping with these little shed dormers that pop out of it, I think will look attractive with a wood roof versus an asphalt roof. So I'd be in favor of it.
Okay, thank you. Abby? Okay. Abby is sitting the fence. Connie?
I just have a question. I just don't know. What is the advantage of these types of shingles? Wallaby?
What, do you mind if
Supposedly, I did the research myself. I just got thrown into this by the homeowner. But I did my own research on it. My own research, it seems to be a lot durable, stronger than the regular cedar.
If I may, the other appealing is that the oils are naturally fire retardant.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
in the
And the only
historic district,
difference that
that's-
I noticed by driving by and looking at them myself visually is they seem a little bit thicker than just the red cedar, which to me seems better for your roof, personally.
I don't think they're that. I think they're 5/8.
I mean, it had to be pointed out by my husband who does it. I would do teeth. He does roofs. I'm like, how can you tell the difference? And he had to point it out. And, oh, okay, I see it now.
Connie, anything?
If that
else?
makes sense.
No, I definitely think wood would be better than asphalt, so.
Okay. Yeah, I think, ultimately, these are going to prove that they're appropriate. I understand the hesitation based on, limited experience, but we do have them out there and they are weathering in nicely. And the fact that they do have a fire retardant nature, I think is really attractive. So what about a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve. And
Okay. On Diane's motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One abstention, Abby. Okay. You guys, we're rounding the bend. I'd like to see if we can finish strong. 11 Mill Street, Hardscape. Is Mark with us?
I'm here.
Mark, when you see you're good to go?
Yes.
You got approved.
Oh, no.
Mark, when you see your site plan, you can go ahead and start.
Okay. I just had knee surgery 2 weeks ago today. So I'm a little distracted, but I'm here. I've had my knee up elevated with ice and stuff, but I'm all yours.
Are you seeing Lizzie Camp?
I did see, no, we finished on Sunday. I'm doing outpatient therapy now. Your daughter was quite good.
Oh, good.
Okay, well, these are our elevations. The homeowner and myself watched the previous meeting together a couple days after we met, and we listened to all of your suggestions and ideas. And she was very excited about doing a picket fence. She thought it would be good for the house and everything else. So she was more than willing to have us install a picket fence. And also, we were both would like to take Mickey's suggestion about natural pea stone to cover the concrete. We think with a natural picket fence and the natural pea stone behind it, it's probably the least offensive of anything that we could do. So that's where we are today. The only thing that is different that I showed on a drawing past there, the front picket fence was put in after we lowered the house down and put the landscape back together. And so the picket fence that we were copying historically, yes, this corner here, the picket fence that was in the historical pictures actually came out to the corner, came out to the curb and then ran down the side of the house. So when we were not going to have, before we had leaks in the basement, we were not going to have any fence on that side, and that was approved in the previous hardscape and construction plans. So my suggestion is that we come off the corner board again there and go toward New Dollar Lane and then follow the curb back to the other end of the house and connect to that corner board there. So I just wanted to clarify that in case when you guys do an inspection, you're looking at the old picture and it didn't go back to the corner board.
Okay, thanks,
That's
Mark.
about it. Yep.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, for the record, this is the Job Macy House, a circa 1790 typical Nantucket, and its significance for its lack of symmetry. Appreciate the owner listening to the commission's discussion on the partial as-built condition. Having the concrete covered with pea stone versus the blue stone is much more appropriate. And surrounded by a type 2 capped picket fence as existing and historically there is appropriate. My question for the commission's consideration is the placement of the fence at the corner. And actually, it's funny that Mark brings that up. So in the 1895 photo, the Mill Street fence matched up to the New Dollar Lane fence. And then by the 1970s, the fence terminated around to the corner boards of the facade. So I actually, I understand this proposal before you that's penciled in. But I would recommend that the fence should mimic the 1895 photo and go back to the granite curb. And it would also be helpful if the commission so inclined to approve any proposal that we have a simple site plan, because I think through all this conversation, we don't actually have a revised site plan showing the proposal. So those are my comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Mickey?
Yeah, certainly I think the pea stone is a good idea to cover the concrete, and I'm looking now at this picture with the fence. And I think I'm agreeing with Holly where that the fence, it's kind of odd the way they both meet on the corner board. I don't think in most old situations they would have done that. They would have run the fence down to the corner and wrapped it around the house, not tying into the house as it's shown in the picture there. Other than that, I think it's fine.
Okay, thank you. Who would like to go?
Do we have a picture showing that corner so we can see where it would run around?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It's that additional.
So while we're waiting, it's myself, Abby, Diane, Val's not here, Connie, Jesse's not here, so Joe and Carrie.
So I
One,
can
two,
go.
three. Oh, no, not Carrie. Go ahead.
This picture right here with the do not enter sign shows the picket fence making the corner, old fashioned style. I think that looks I think that looks historic to me. So I would go with that.
Okay.
as well.
Diane?
I'm trying to find the sign.
It's not in that package.
Oh, yeah. I know that we considered what to put down on top of the cement, whether you didn't have any much room to grow anything on the inside. I know pea stone was suggested to put on top of it. So I think the fence probably is more fitting coming down that road. I think it's a I think it's a hard choice of what to do. It's very hard. So,
It's a rocky,
But the pea stone would stop at that corner, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Joe?
I like the idea of the fences running continuous down that curb and then joining up with the front. Looks like just a short section of fence
Okay.
that would be affected by it.
Hey, Connie?
Me too, or maybe Pea Stone.
Okay, so I'm gonna meet you on the Pea Stone, the fence, and the only thing I would request, Mark, is that separating the Pea Stone from visibility along the front would be either a hydrangea or a privet or something on the yard side where the Pea Stone doesn't and the concrete aren't. So that is to say, can we go back to the original image? Yeah, so basically, to the left of what you proposed where the fence returns to the corner board, there would be another foundation plant material there, which would block the view down the side of the house from the front of the house. Because otherwise you're just gonna see this long row of this like tiny little alleyway with stone in it. Do we have a motion?
I would make that my motion.
Okay, so,
Can I make a comment?
briefly,
Okay, just see that brush that's there, that we left that there. The concrete doesn't go to the corner of the house. The concrete stops back about just past that second window going up toward Milk
okay,
Street.
so you could put the plant further back.
Even better.
Yes, the planting's already there. We would be covering the concrete back 12 feet from the corner
yeah,
with pea stone. So we have what you're putting in is planting something there. The existing planting we would leave.
Okay, that sounds good. So, do we have a locus or a site plan in the application?
I saw one.
Or
There
you guys
was-
say replicate the historic fences shown in,
Yeah,
Holly, what's that image?
Oh, there we go.
The 1895 photo, which is in that, it should be in this packet right here.
So, well, so the motion would be to replicate the fences shown in the 1895 photo.
That,
There it is.
yeah,
Okay,
okay.
all right, and that's Diane, your
Yeah.
motion? Everyone, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, that carries.
Thank you,
Last
everyone.
one. Thanks.
Thank you.
Last one for the evening, 35 St. Kitty Road, Pool and Hardscape. So this is gonna be, Abby is excused for the evening. Diane is still here. Joe is in for Jesse. Connie and Carrie are on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
yeah.
Once you see the site plan, Lindsay, welcome. Once you see the site plan, go for it.
All right, cool. There were some concerns from neighbors about the previous location, so the owner and we spoke and decided in everyone's best interest if we just move the pool behind the house, which helps from a visibility standpoint, as well as helps with neighbors' concerns of proximity to their properties. I know that's not your purview, but we try to be good neighbors. And then we relocated the pool equipment from being in that very back corner to be more central in the back, just so that it's not affecting anybody's properties. So, other than that, it's the same size pool, the same hardscape as the previous application.
Okay, thank you. Holly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for the record, the structure on the law is a circa 1986, so it's a non-contributing structure. Appreciate the revised pool location, obviously more appropriate. My only concern was, which I brought up previously, is that as existing, there is no apron. But the site plan obviously shows one, so that needs to obviously be highlighted and indicated on both that site plan and the COA as to the material, and make sure the dimensions comply with zoning bylaw 139.20.1, I think it is. And obviously, if the commission's so inclined to approve that your caveat is attached. So those are my comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Is there anything from Wisconsin in that?
Wisconsin was very happy with this proposal.
Okay. Any questions?
I have a question.
Joe?
Hi Lindsay, what's the opening to the adjacent property? Are these properties?
So
owned
his mom
together?
owns the neighboring property, so for right now, he kind of has a little spur off, so he can kind of pull off into her area. There's like a little garage there if he wants to use it. But I think, you know, you could easily.
So it's accessible from the way that we see. You can drive down that way and
No, so you'd come up his driveway and then you turn you can see the existing vegetation along the road that's not highlighted in green on the neighboring property. So just past that, there's a little opening.
Okay, in the back.
Yeah, but it doesn't go all the way back. It's just in that one little area.
I was asking about the opening relative to visibility of the pool back there.
Oh, no. That's the backyard of his mom's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it's just
It's
open
not
to the
visible,
neighbor's
yeah.
property.
Can we
Yeah.
zoom in on this? Aaron?
Yeah, his mom owns that property to the left of that house.
So Lindsay, that looks to be at least a paper road. But I mean, we can address that with not visible time inspection or thereafter. I get your point. I wanted to make sure I understood what was there too.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was a fence that was around it and if that opening meant you could drive a car into that area from that way.
No, there's a vegetation. It's dense with shrubs right along that way, so it's completely blocked off.
Right.
That opening is just so he can go from his backyard to his mom's backyard.
Okay.
Thank you. I want to just make sure Ray doesn't drive his bike into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the lack of visibility and perpetuity, it's covered. I just wanted to understand that.
Thank you. Diane?
No, I agree with what has happened. I know the road.
Okay.
And the driveway and stuff.
Now they get a nice big yard.
I just have a question about where the pool equipment location is. There's a big green strip. That's natural vegetation.
Yeah, it's natural
that exists,
vegetation. We're
but
just
it's
gonna
not
tuck it in.
changing.
Yeah, we're just gonna,
That's changing.
right.
Because that I think helps the visibility factor if, from anywhere else, but.
Okay, for the minutes, that's Carrie Connie.
I'm good with this.
Okay, how about a motion?
Motion. So approved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh,
We have it through staff.
through staff, not visible time inspection or thereafter.
Yeah.
And the apron.
And the apron.
And the apron. Don't forget the apron. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Without further ado, can
Thank
we
you.
have a John McLaughlin?
Can we do the minutes?
We don't have any minutes.
Oh, I thought you said there were minutes.
No, we gotta get some.
Mr. Chairman, there is one to approve of previously approved minutes.
Did I miss it? I did scribble some
June 8th, yep.
June 8th. So is it a,
All the gang.
It was a very minor.
oh, I'm sorry, motion approved through staff with second floor gang windows to be spread apart. So is this a clarification?
That's the new.
Oh, this is to amend a previously approved minutes. So this is guys, this is a two-part motion. The first is to amend something previously approved. The minutes of June 8th, 2023, 1012 Dave Kim Lane. Would somebody make that motion?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor of Diane's motion, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that carries unanimously. And then the amendment is with respect to those motions, motion to approve through staff with second floor gang windows to be spread apart.
Right.
Diane,
So moved.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's been amended. Thank you. Sorry, if they can hear it in the minutes,
Yeah,
that's what
okay.
takes so long in the minutes.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, guys,
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Diane. All in favor, say aye.
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 Carried.